contents of this episode may not be suitable for all. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Staircase. I'm your host, Nathan.
I'm your half-host, Nicholas.
And today we have some super exciting news. We are officially launching Staircase Conspiracies.
Yes.
And Nick, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, man, this is going to be awesome because everyone loves a good conspiracy. And we're going to be talking about a lot of really juicy ones. Don't know if it's true or false, but that's up for you guys to decide. And we're going to present you with the cases, and you can decide if it's true or false, if it's too hard to believe or not.
Yeah, so every episode, we'll take turns telling each other a crazy conspiracy that we've have done some research in and looked into. And this is just going to be a good way to keep getting more content to you guys as often as possible. Yeah, I think it'll be fun. I can't wait to tell you this story, dude, because this is so crazy. So whenever I think about conspiracies, I was searching a whole bunch of them. And there's this one in particular that I was like, this has to be our jumping off point. Because for me, it is like the conspiracy theory or conspiracy, just case, unsolved mystery. And it is the infamous case of JonBenet Ramsey. And let me tell you, dude, when every article I looked into, everything I looked up, there is just a new suspect, a new possible set of clues. It just seems like a never ending rabbit hole of possibilities for this case. And it just, every detail just kind of takes it to like another step, and it just kind of gets like a little overwhelming. So I'm going to do my best to tell you this story, give you the most likely suspects that I think are probably the most plausible. And then at the end, you can just everyone can just guess for themselves what they think it is. It's still an open case to this day. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Yeah, man, I'm excited about this. I know nothing about this case, honestly. I know the name. I don't know what it's all about.
It was pretty popular whenever I was a kid. I remember seeing her face on all of the news magazines and things like that. So, yeah, it was pretty popular, but a lot of people I've talked to were like, yeah, I've kind of heard the name, but I don't really know anything about it. Let's get into it.
Let's go.
All right. So this is the infamous unsolved case of beauty pageant contestant and 5-time winner, 6-year-old JonBenet Ramsey. It's 1996 in Boulder, Colorado, in the early morning of December 26th, when Patsy Ramsey woke for a glass of water. As she descended her staircase. See what I did there?
Dude, so this is about a child?
Yes, she is a 6-year-old beauty pageant contestant. There's no easy way of saying this. It was towards the end of her life that it was a short amount of time. I mean, so it is about a child.
Dude, for some reason, I think I get these cases mixed up, a lot of these cases, because we were talking before, like there's been so many of these, especially back then, I get them all confused. So I thought it was a grown man.
Because of John.
Yeah.
Okay, yes. John, let me clear that up. JonBenet Ramsey is a little girl. Oh
my God, it's a girl too.
That's a little boy. Okay,
oh my God.
Not funny. All right. Anyways. Okay. So as she's walking down the staircase, she notices a 3-page letter on her table. And this is what the letter reads. Mr. Ramsey, listen carefully. We are a group of individuals that represent a small foreign faction. We respect your business, but not the country that it serves. At this time, we have your daughter in our possession.
Ooh.
She is safe and unharmed. And if you want her to see 1997, you must follow our instructions to the letter. You will withdraw $118,000 from your account. $100,000 will be in $100 bills, and the remaining $18,000 in $20 bills.
Wow, that's oddly specific.
Well, I'm glad you clocked that, because that will definitely
gotta be a reason for that, right?
Yeah, that will make a return. Make sure that you bring an adequate size attaché to the bank. Do you know what an attaché is?
I guess some sort of a bag or something.
Yeah, it's a briefcase.
What in the world?
Yeah, odd choice of words, that's for sure. When you get home, you will put the money in a brown paper bag. I will call you between 8 and 10 a.m. tomorrow to instruct you on delivery. The delivery will be exhausting, so I advise you to be rested. If we monitor you getting the money early, we might call you early to arrange an earlier delivery of the money and hence an earlier delivery pickup of your daughter. A lot of earliers in there.
Oh, that's word for word on the note?
Word for word, yeah. Any deviation of my instructions will result in the immediate execution of your daughter. You will also be denied her remains for proper burial.
Dang.
The two gentlemen watching over your daughter do not particularly like you, so I advise you not to provoke them. Speaking to anyone about your situation, such as police, FBI, and so forth, will result in your daughter being beheaded.
Dang.
Strange that they put and so forth. If we catch you talking to a stray dog, she dies.
What?
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 What is this ransom letter, dude?
Wow.
It's strange. You can try to deceive us, but be warned that we are familiar with law enforcement countermeasures and tactics. You stand a 99% chance of killing your daughter if you try and outsmart us. Follow our instructions, and you stand a 100% chance of getting her back. You and your family are under constant scrutiny, as well as the authorities. Don't try to grow a brain, John. You are not the only fat cat around, so don't think that killing will be difficult.
Wow.
Don't underestimate us, John. Use that good Southern common sense of yours. It is up to you now, John. Whoever wrote this is how it's signed. Victory with an exclamation point. SBTC.
SBTC.
Yep. So as soon as she reads this, Patsy throws down this letter and runs upstairs to her daughter room, only to find it empty. She's gone. She then wakes her husband, John, and from there, the police are called. When the police arrive, the neighbors are already inside the home and began comforting the family. They're like talking to Patsy and her husband, John, and they are, trying to figure out what's going on. They live in a pretty nice house. This house is essentially a mansion. The surrounding neighbors also are just curious of, kind of what's going on.
Dang, so they came into the house.
Yes.
While they were there. Oh my gosh.
The house began to fill as people poured in and out of the home. They would wait all morning for the phone call, but soon 10 a.m. would come and pass with no phone call from the kidnapper. Linda Arndt, the detective at the time, would note that the Ramsey family didn't seem to notice that the call had not come. The phone call was supposed to be there between 8 and 10, and 8, 9, 10 a.m. came rolling around and no phone call ever came from any kidnappers. And it was kind of odd that the family was kind of not really noticing or looking for if my son was taken, I would think I'd be waiting right next to the phone, of waiting for that to happen. So the detective clocked that and thought that was definitely something odd. She would eventually ask the family to search the home for any evidence of an intruder. She would ask John, the dad, specifically to search upstairs. However, John would go downstairs into the basement. Within minutes, he would return upstairs holding the lifeless body of JonBenet Ramsey in his arms. He laid her on a nearby couch. The detective, Art, would run over and she checked her pulse and was seeing if she was still alive, and the dad looked at her right in the eyes and said, "Is she dead?" And she just said, "Yes."
Oh my gosh.
Linda Arndt would later on say that the way John looked into her eyes was very odd, and she said it was a very odd moment to be had with him. Now, if my son was taken, who knows how I would react?
Yeah.
I don't know if I would be normal acting. I don't know what normal would mean. This brought a lot of scrutiny onto the family.
Well, I think I already kind of know how this is going, but we'll see. I want to see how this ends.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, the ending is still...
I hope I'm wrong. Let's just say that.
Yeah, so this is where the story really starts to break down. So let's talk about this ransom note. So experts say that most ransom notes are short, sweet, and to the point. We have your daughter, we want this amount of money, and we'll call you later. But this wasn't exactly what they got. Instead, they received a 3-page letter, almost like a 3-page book on a kidnapping. Additionally, why make a ransom letter if you plan to kill the child?
Yeah, man.
So that also is very strange. And typically when a child is kidnapped, they're not found inside of the home, especially within hours of the abduction.
Yeah.
So back to the letter. The request for $118,000. You remember you mentioned that earlier.
Yeah.
So this was the exact amount that John Ramsey had received as a Christmas bonus that year.
Oh.
So he actually had $118,000 was coming into the family. Whoever did this had to have known that they were about to come into $118,000 to ask for $118,000. Very strange figure. This all stuck out to investigators, which led them away from the burglar theory and began setting their sights on the Ramsey family. And to make matters worse, the Ramsey family were totally uncooperative with the police department. Instead of cooperating with the police and talking to the police, they would actually go to a news outlet that John knew a producer of and was able to announce a reward for the return of their daughter, kind of talk about the case on national television instead of working with the police. So that definitely rose a lot of questions regarding the Ramsey family and potentially
for
their
sure,
involvement.
dude. Going on TV and stuff would be the last thing in my mind. I mean, I guess if it helps, but not before you go to the police and whatnot.
The Ramsey family would later say that they were advised to not communicate with the police because of how the detectives were kind of handling them during the finding of JonBenet Ramsey. Like I said, Linda Arndt, the detective, had her eye on John pretty much from the beginning.
That's interesting.
Let's move on to the autopsy. JonBenet's autopsy would reveal that she had died due to beating, but the coroner would report the actual cause of death was strangulation. Upon further investigation, detectives found a slew of interesting clues that would only add more questions to the case. The ransom note was written with the pen and on the pad of Patsy Ramsey, the mom, indicating that the letter was written inside of the home. So whoever broke in, grabbed her pad, grabbed the pen,
wow,
and wrote
that's
right
interesting
there.
that they found that out.
A first draft of the note was found in the trash.
Oh my god.
Revealing scribbled out words.
Oh geez, come on.
Words like possession was misspelled in the note, while words like attaché was spelled with the correct accent.
What?
A rope was found outside of JonBenet's room that the family did not recognize. Multiple footprints were found outside of the house that did not match anyone in the home. Bits of red strands of fabric were found on the sheet she was found in. But the most important bit of evidence found were trace amount of DNA on her underwear. The DNA would be tested against over 1 million sex offenders and child molesters.
Dang. See that? Oh, I always find that so amazing that they can just do that.
But nobody was a match.
Wow.
The investigation would turn back to the Ramsey family, and motives would be explored. First, John Ramsey. Perhaps he was abusing his daughter in secret, and she was ready to tell.
Yeah.
There are images of her arms from beauty pageants that showed multiple bruising. So the theory is
Yeah.
maybe she was about to talk.
Dang.
Next, Patsy Ramsey. Maybe she had enough of JonBenet's bedwetting, a known issue in the Ramsey household. Maybe an aggressive display of correction turned deadly. And finally, Burke Ramsey, her 9-year-old older brother. Could he have had something to do with his brutal killing? Maybe he was jealous of the attention his sister received. Maybe playtime turned sinister.
Golly.
This last theory led investigators to point out that Patsy Ramsey may have helped cover up her son's murder under the guise of a burglar and crazy ransom letter.
Even if it was a 9-year-old son, how in the world would he have gotten rid of the body and whatnot? Even if it was the kid, the parents would have had been in on it too.
That's exactly what the investigators were thinking, that if Burke Ramsey was involved, then the parents have to be involved, or at least one of the parents have to be involved.
Wow.
And the reason why they suspected, maybe the mom is because the weapon that was used as a strangulation device, it's basically a rope that's tied around a stick, and then they can tighten the stick, which tightens the rope. And that stick was a paintbrush of Patsy's. So there's a lot of indication that it was on Patsy's notepad. It was Patsy's pen. It was Patsy's paintbrush.
Yeah.
There's a lot of indications that maybe it was Patsy more involved and the son potentially.
Yeah, wow.
This new theory, however, would quickly be debunked when each member of the Ramsey family did not match the DNA found at the scene of the crime. Now that we've ruled out the Ramsey family, let's get into other suspects.
All right.
All right, well, let me first say this, that I've narrowed down some suspects. There is like an almost unlimited amount of suspects
Yeah,
that you
totally.
can draw from. So if anyone wants to look into this case, you're gonna see way more than the suspects that I'm about to reveal. This to me is just the closest suspects that I found. That might have lined up. So first up, we have Bill McReynolds. He was an elderly gentleman who often dressed as Santa Claus for the Ramsey Christmas parties, which he was in attendance of just 2 days prior to the killing. So in 1974, his own daughter was also kidnapped.
Do you know what that came of that? Like with his kid?
Unfortunately, I don't know what came of that.
Wow.
She, all I do know is that she was kidnapped.
Stay away from that guy.
Additionally, his wife had written a play where a child is molested and then murdered in a basement.
Come on, dude.
Not good, right?
Wow.
According to the Denver Post, this man felt close to JonBenet, stating once, "Her murder was harder on me than my own operation. She made a profound change in me." He even brought a vial of glitter gifted to him by JonBenet Ramsey into his heart surgery.
Wow.
The gift was special to him because he had never been given a gift while playing Santa before. And he told his wife once, "If I die, mix her glitter with my ashes."
What the what? Weirdo.
Red, just alarms going
Yeah,
off
dude,
left and
totally.
right. However, despite coming across as just a little bit creepy, there would be no evidence suggesting Bill McReynolds' involvement in the murder. And he has actually since died.
Oh, geez.
Which brings us to our next suspect, neighbor Gary Oliva. In 2016, 20 years after JonBenet's murder, he's arrested on unrelated drug charges. In his backpack, police found a photo of JonBenet.
God, dude, everyone's obsessed with this poor girl.
I don't know what it is, just creeps, bro. Creeps. So he explains to the Denver Post, "JonBenet's murder touched me very deeply. I felt she was an exceptional girl whose death was an exceptional loss. I felt the need to build a monument, a shrine to remember this little girl."
Bro, come on, dude.
Just like,
Poor judge of character, man. Golly.
so bad. So this is actually where the story gets very, very interesting. A high school friend of Oliva, Michael Vale, would reveal to In Touch magazine that the day after JonBenet's murder, he received a phone call from Oliva stating, quote, "I heard a little girl. I heard a little girl." End quote. Vale would also reveal that Oliva also told him the location of where he had hurt this little girl. Boulder, Colorado. Records would show that the only reports of any child in that area that night that was hurt was JonBenet Ramsey. Vale also told reporters that the method of strangulation used on JonBenet Ramsey is the same method Oliva used on his own mother when he attempted to kill her.
Oh my God, dude.
Yeah, so this thing is called a garrote.
Who's ever heard of that? Like, wow.
However, although his involvement seemed assured, his DNA was not a match to the DNA found at the crime scene.
Man, all these obvious suspects are like, they're getting ruled out.
Yep, all of them just get ruled out one by one based off of this DNA. So next is John Mark Carr. Now, I'm going to save us a lot of time and just tell you that this guy was just wasting everyone's time. An investigator, Michael Tracy, would spend years befriending Carr until he finally admitted in 2006 to the killing. However, his accounts of the murder did not match the actual events. And to put the nail in the coffin, John Mark Carr's DNA was also not a match.
Wow. So he wanted to go to jail? What? Why do
So
people
this
do that?
guy, oh my gosh. Okay, so this guy is a teacher. He's like a substitute teacher, and he gets fired for messing around with little kids at the school. He also gets a divorce from his wife, he's got 3 children with, and they get a restraining order against him. And he's not allowed to go see them. Well, this sparks some sort of journey for John Mark Carr, and he ends up going around the country teaching to kids in other countries. That's just like what he was doing. Wow. And so he ended up talking to this investigator. So I think that John Mark Carr just wanted some reason to get back into the United States. And I think this was the cheapest way to get back into the United States. Now, he's also a creep in his own right. He is also like a sex offender, and his own charges. Does he fit the case? Yes, he does. Also not a match. But this guy is just a genuine creep with child pornography charges and 2 underage marriages. One just 13 at the time.
What?
And so I'm assuming that's probably in another country he got married to someone.
Totally.
Today, he lives as a transgender woman by the name of Alexis Reek.
Of course he does.
Very, very strange person. Which brings us to our final suspect, Glenn Myers. This guy is not on the radar as often as I've seen on other articles and other news outlets and stuff like this.
Right.
He was looked at by police, but we'll kind of get into that in a little bit. But this is not one of your top suspects, but I found some information that really puts him to me as a definite candidate. Just 2 days before the murder, the Ramseys' neighbors, an older couple, the Barnhills, were in attendance. The Barnhills would often watch JonBenet's dog when the family would travel, and since the Ramseys planned on leaving the morning after Christmas, they were currently watching the dog. The Barnhills were extremely close to the Ramseys. However, the Ramseys had no idea that the Barnhills had a guest living in their basement, Glenn Myers, divorcee who owed a lot of money, didn't have any money, and found a small space with the Barnhills for rent in their basement. His ex-wife, Charlotte Hayes, was interviewed, and she reported abuse from Glenn over the course of their marriage to her and her kids. He had no kids of his own, but he was especially mean to her youngest daughter. Glenn left the state and returned home almost immediately after the murder. And Charlotte reported that he hung photos of the young beauty pageant star all around his apartment from newspapers and magazine cuttings. The night of the party, Glenn came looking for the Barnhills, and based on his oddity, John Ramsey, her dad, pointed him out to the investigators, writing to see if it was a match to the ransom note. Charlotte, his ex-wife, also felt that the ransom note's handwriting was Glenn's. Charlotte was so convinced of his involvement that she would point blank ask him if he was involved in the murder, to which he would only smile in return.
Wow.
Creep. One final thing to note regarding Glenn Myers, and this is the most important bit of information that I was able to dig up. In the basement of the Barnhills home, where Glenn was living, is a picture of an old World War I plane. Across the plane is the word victory.
Oh.
This plane was more accurately known as the SB-2C.
No, dude.
The ransom note was signed Victory SB-2C.
Dang.
Unfortunately, his DNA also did not match.
Wow, okay.
And in 2005, Glenn Myers passed.
That's crazy.
It gets crazier. In a stunning turn of events, a recent CBS program had Dr. Henry Lee, a DNA expert on the O.J. Simpson case. He studied the DNA from the JonBenet Ramsey scene. He found that the undergarments may have held transferred DNA from the manufacturing process. And he proved this by testing unopened bags of underwear.
Wow. So like the people packaging it?
Yes! Yes! The CBS program concluded that the crime scene DNA was considered fallacious, meaning that conceivably any of the listed suspects could again possibly be the killer.
Wow.
Making the case even more open-ended than we already thought that it was.
Unbelievable, dude.
So every single person that we said was getting ruled out based on that DNA
It could have been them.
could now be the suspects all over again.
Definitely the guy with the freaking plane, dude.
One last thing here I'd like to leave you with. And Nick, this is the most important part.
Okay.
Barbara Kosnick was a close friend to the Ramseys. Her daughter was best friends with JonBenet. And on the day before her murder, JonBenet told her daughter that she was getting a special secret visit from Santa after Christmas. Barbara attempted to correct JonBenet, saying, quote, No, Santa comes tonight, end quote. To which JonBenet replied, quote, My Santa said he's giving me a visit after Christmas, end quote.
Creepy, dude.
Creepy. So that is the wild case. And I only covered probably just like a small window
Yeah.
of the whole case. But those are my top suspects. I would love to know what you think about this and who you might think it is. And if anybody has any suspects of their own, definitely leave them in the comments so we can look into those too. But what do you think about that?
That's insane. So nobody has been arrested to this day?
To this day, nobody.
Oh my, dude, it has to be the guy with the plane, dude. Those coincidences are too perfect in order for them to be just by chance. Like, it has to be him, dude.
Well, the DNA was ruling out all of the suspects. So, and each suspect kind of had some plausible motive for doing it. So the fact that we now don't have that DNA to rule them out, now all of them seem just as reasonable as another. Okay, so this is kind of like what I think happened. Do you remember Bill McReynolds, the guy, the old man who dressed up as Santa, and his wife had written a play about a very similar murder to this?
Right, yeah.
And we remember Gary Oliva, the guy who was found 20 years later in his backpack. He had a photo. There was 2 sets of footprints found outside of the home of the JonBenet Ramsey home. My personal thoughts is that Bill McReynolds visited her as Santa Claus, got her into the basement, and had Gary Oliva also help him so that because he was an older man, he got a younger guy who was also a neighbor that could kind of help him facilitate getting down into the basement.
Yeah.
He would write a ransom letter because he knew the family. He knew how much money that they were probably going to be coming into. He writes a ransom letter. Something goes wrong downstairs in the basement with Gary Oliva and JonBenet Ramsey because she's found killed. And remember earlier, I told you that investigators found red fibers in JonBenet's clothing.
Yeah, right.
Which could also indicate a Santa Claus suit.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I have no idea. We'll never really know. Bill McReynolds has since passed, but I think that you can speculate all day. I mean, if you had to pick one of these suspects, who would you pin down?
Definitely the guy with the airplane, Glenn Myers, because I just don't think that's possible for it all to be just a coincidence. The initials and the name and all that.
He lives next door.
It has to be. It has to be, bro.
Oh, here's another detail about Glenn Myers. They had the dog, which means he knew he could break in without the dog barking.
Right. Yeah.
You had to have known that the dog wouldn't be there.
That's a good point too, man. This is crazy, bro.
So that concludes and keeps an open conspiracy and a unsolved case continues.
Totally, man.
So this is Staircase Conspiracies. This is going to be our new template moving forward. We hope to get content out every single week. Nick, you're up next week. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, dude, I'm really pumped about this one. I know a lot of conspiracy theories, so this is going to be a really fun journey on this new show that we have. It's a great idea. So next week, I'm going to be covering a aspect of the dark web or the deep web, something called red rooms. And believe me when I tell you, it is insane and absolutely disturbing. So be sure to check out that. Be sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and let us know what you guys think down below.
Yeah, when you mentioned the Red Room, I have no idea what you're talking about, so I cannot wait to hear what you have in store for us next week.
Yeah, man. Let's go. Let's do it. I'm pumped about this.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Later. Stay safe.
Contents of this episode may not be suitable for all. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us again on the Staircase for the second edition of Staircase Conspiracies. I am your host, Nicholas.
And I'm your other host, Nathan.
So today we have another mind-bending conspiracy, the same as last week. We still don't know who the hell killed JonBenet Ramsey. If you have not listened to the first episode, go back and listen to that. Stop this episode, click down below in the description, listen to that one first, then come back to this one so you're not behind on the episodes. So today we're going to be talking about red rooms on the dark web. I know, Nate, I spoke to you about this last week and you had no idea what any of that meant.
Yeah, no clue at all. You mentioned red rooms and can't even think of one thing that could be. I have no idea. You mentioned dark web and I'm a little afraid of what it might end up being. So I'm excited.
Yeah, no, me too, man. This is a really good one. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. What would you do if you had unlimited money but already bought everything your imagination could come up with? They say a large number of crimes are committed due to boredom. A very select few of the so-called elite billionaires are invited to join what they call a real red room. And no, I'm not talking about the rooms where film is produced. I'm talking about a room where poor innocent people are tortured and then brutally murdered for the viewing entertainment of the richest and most powerful people across the world.
Dude, I was afraid it was going to be this. When you,
Yeah.
when you said dark web. Okay, great. Tell me more.
A small group of people log on to a secure server via the Onion router, or often referred to as just Tor, T-O-R, which is basically a completely anonymous web browser that is used to access the deep web, or the dark web, as many call it.
What's Tor? What do you mean by Tor, T-O-R? Is that like a search engine like Google?
So basically, Tor is like a web browser. So if you use like Firefox or Google Chrome,
Safari, okay,
that's basically what that is. But it's much more complex than all of that.
Okay.
So basically, just a little background. Tor was actually invented by the military for basically transferring secret documents, encrypted documents, and all that, because it's completely anonymous and really secure. So that's basically what Tor is.
Can anyone access the Tor?
Yes. Yeah.
Website?
Good question. So everyone can download Tor. It's totally free. A lot of people use it just to be anonymous. Whistleblowers use it to post basically government secrets like Edward Snowden, all that sort of stuff.
Do the police monitor people's activity on there?
They can, but it's really difficult which we'll talk about in a little while, honeypots, which is basically like a sting operation. The only way they can monitor it is if they set up the actual Onion site. So basically a website on the Onion is, instead of .com, it's .onion.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah, I've never heard of that before. That's .onion. Why?
Yeah, and there's something called the Hidden Wiki.
Onion because of layers.
Oh, you know what? That's probably exactly what that means. That is probably exactly what that is. Yeah. So basically, there's something called the Hidden Wiki, which is basically Google. So basically the best way to think of it, and I'll put a meme on the screen kind of explaining a really good explanation of it, is basically if you see a big iceberg on top, this top surface is only like a little tiny portion you can see. Looks like a little piece of ice. Underneath the ocean, it's a big, huge piece of ice. So basically the surface web that we know it of Google and .coms and
it's just
everything,
the tip of the iceberg.
it's just the tip of yeah, exactly.
Got it.
That's a really good way to kind of think about it, kind of an explanation. And also, when I just want to say this ahead of time, the deep web is actually a really good tool for anonymous browsing and purchasing things that aren't illegal. A lot of non-illegal activity goes on the deep web. A lot of really good things happen on there. A very small portion of it, just like our internet, there's child porn and a bunch of really bad stuff on this regular internet as well. The deep web is actually a really good tool and really awesome thing if you're safe on it and do it for legal things.
Got it. Wow.
These sick individuals sit back in the comfort of their own home while watching these terrified people be tortured in every way imaginable, while locked away in a room where the walls are stained with blood from past victims.
So it's called the Red Room because there's blood on the walls.
Yeah, exactly. And we don't know where these red rooms are. I would imagine abandoned buildings, or maybe even just a building that somebody rented out for that. We're talking about the richest people in the world. Like they make Jeff Bezos look poor. Like, that's how rich they are. We're talking about the elite of the elite. I don't know if you believe in the Illuminati or not. Basically, that level of power.
That's another theory for another time. You save that one.
Yeah. So basically, that level of power where this, laws aren't a thing. They do whatever they want.
So how involved do these billionaires get? I mean, are they torturing people too, or are they just...
Right. Yeah, that's a good question, and we'll get to that in just a moment here. So basically, red rooms, you can't just stumble upon them you can't go on the Hidden Wiki, which is, basically the Google of dark web, and just randomly come across a red room. The links are exclusively passed out and kept completely secret, which, of course, is because it's highly illegal.
Now, when you say, they have to give them an access code, that's similar to people who have private parties and stuff like that, and you have to be those really crazy parties where it's you don't even know where the location's going to be until the day of or 2 hours before or something like that. So this is just kind of like that, just
Yeah, it's
on another
exactly
level.
like that. Yes. And so if you go on YouTube right now and type in Red Room, you're going to find a bunch of fake videos that are from art projects and art students, like really weird looking stuff. And it's going to have a title of Disturbing Red Room Footage. But believe me, don't waste your time with that. Those are 100% fake. If anyone uploaded footage to YouTube, it would be taken down immediately. There's no way that these videos would be getting millions and millions of views. And not only that, but who is going to record a Red Room illegal activity that they're witnessing and paid for access to on YouTube? So
Right.
don't even waste your time with that.
Well, if YouTube is on our regular online, and to access these Red Rooms, you'd have to be. Can you access YouTube on the dark web?
I don't think so.
So if you're watching it on YouTube, you're not in the right spot.
Yeah, so a lot of times what happens is there's a lot of people that do deep web videos, and some of them are really good. They go on the deep web and just kind of explore things and kind of show people what it's all about. Some Ordinary Gamer, that's a YouTube channel I really like. He does a whole series of deep webs. Like basically every Sunday he goes on there and just kind of searches for stuff, really cool stuff. And a lot of the videos that are on the deep web, he does in the series, he shows one video he found on the deep web. 90% of the ones are basically, a lot of these videos, they get taken off of the clear web, which is our web that we know. That's what it's referred to as, and put on the deep web, and they put like, oh, somebody getting killed or something. But really, it's just like a scene from a movie that's really edited and to make it look low quality and stuff like that. So,
I see.
Yeah, there's a lot of that stuff going on. But
so this is like in the world of like Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And speaking of Jeffrey Epstein, there's actually a guy named Peter Scully, which is basically a really bad dude. He's an Australian man who is living in the Philippines, and he actually filmed himself doing some of the most unspeakable things to young children. I'm not going to go into detail of what it is, and I mean, you can look it up, read the articles yourself, but I don't really recommend doing that because it's really, really disturbing stuff. Like, I'm not even just saying that for a fact. It's really, really disturbing.
Jeez, he was Australian?
Yeah, he was Australian, and he was living in the Philippines with his girlfriend. Basically, they were a team in recruiting these young kids. Very similar to what's going on with Jeffrey Epstein and his wife or mistress or whatever. I don't know her name, but
yeah,
that's currently on trial or whatever.
Dude, that happens all the time where there's killers where they are hurting people or hurting girls, and then their wife or their girlfriend is kind of in on it too. So that's crazy. Definitely attracts crazy.
Absolutely, dude. Very, very sick stuff. So basically, he filmed himself in a movie, I guess you can call it, called Daisy's Destruction, which is really a popular, I don't really want to say popular, but it's a really known thing. If anyone that knows about the deep web or dark web knows about Daisy's Destruction, where he basically, again, does the most horrific things to this little girl, basically 5-year-old girl that was taken from her parents. And I'm not going to go into details again, but just to give you an idea of how sick this is, a Filipino police chief called it, quote, the worst we have ever encountered in our years campaigning against child pornography.
Oh my gosh, that's like making him the poster child for sickos, basically. For creeps.
Yeah, man. So this girl was 5 years old, taken from her parents, and this video was put up basically on the deep web as basically a pay-per-view sort of thing. It didn't happen live. It wasn't a live stream like a Red Room, but it's the same sort of concept. You have to access it. You have to get a basically invitation to see this. You have to pay a lot of money to do it.
Multiple children in this film?
Not that particular one is about one girl. We don't know the identity, but basically they think her name is Barbie, a Filipino girl that this happened to,
and he's involved. He's the one on
he's
camera.
The one that's doing it. Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah, and the girl was actually, again, 5 years old, kidnapped from her family. They think her name was Barbie, but we don't obviously know the name of the child that was basically tortured and raped and murdered, because she is underage, obviously. But there's rumors that her name was Barbie from the Philippines. And this was all up for viewing, basically as a pay-per-view, in a sense, on the deep web. So this basically isn't a Red Room, but this is kind of the same thing along the lines of people being murdered and tortured and people paying money to view it, a lot of money to view it. It's very secretive, but this wasn't live streamed like an actual Red Room.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty sick stuff. Nobody officially knows just how a link is provided or even how much access costs.
So if you can't find these rooms, it's like impossible to find, then it's also almost impossible to find anyone who's doing it. too.
Yeah, unless again, if it's the whole honeypot thing, unless the feds or FBI or whatever sets up an actual fake page and gets your information that way.
Oh, okay.
But even that is so hard because the Onion router is, just as you mentioned, an onion. It gives you so many layers, just like it's like a VPN on steroids. It's basically completely anonymizes your location, your information, and not only that, but in order to pay, they use Bitcoin, which is so extremely hard to track that down as well. So even if they create a fake page and you give them information, the information that you're giving them is anonymous itself. So it's really hard to catch these people, man.
That's insane.
Yeah. Some say it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars and others say millions. My guess, it would probably be millions of dollars. There's a lot of videos online of people trying to access a red room and the cost says, a certain amount in Bitcoin, which actually translates to like $1,000. But there's no way in hell that these people are paying only $1,000. There's no way in hell. Those are scams right there, or honeypots. So if any YouTuber says that they found a red room, they're completely full of it. Some say red rooms are completely made up because no one has ever seen one. But if they were real, would anybody really know about it? And would anybody really brag about being a part of this illegal ritual?
So you're saying it may not even be true?
Well, that's the thing. I personally think that stuff like this happens all the time. They may not be specifically labeled red room.
Okay.
Red rooms may not exist, but this sort of stuff, I would bet my life that this sort of stuff goes on all the time.
Well, this Peter Scully guy was obviously arrested for doing stuff very similarly and making money off of it, right?
Yeah, man. He made a lot of money.
Did they ever track down who? Oh, I guess not, because it's kind of hard to track down if you're watching anonymously.
Well, they found this Peter Scully guy. There's a really good 60-minute episode where they kind of break it down and how they found him and whatnot. So I definitely recommend going to watch that if you want to learn more about this guy. But yeah, he is currently waiting trial. I believe he's in Australia. They exported him to Australia, and the prosecutors are actually pushing to get the death penalty brought back just for this guy. That's how bad he is.
Wow. That's insane, dude.
Yeah.
Red rooms.
Yeah, man.
Wow.
But over time, we've seen a lot of these scandals uncovered. We've seen the most recent would be Jeffrey Epstein, just as you mentioned, and, the so-called pedophile island. I mean, if you go on Google Earth and just look at that island, it looks like something where this stuff would go on. I mean, it's really freaky looking.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen documentaries with the Epstein, and you're right. I mean, Jeffrey Epstein had, crazy amounts of money, and no one knew where he had his money and where that came from, and how many other guys are like that, where they just have money. I mean, probably, man, that's why it's a good conspiracy, because
yeah,
it's like, man, that you would think if you have all this money, then that's the only way something like this can even be out there, is if you can afford to keep things quiet.
Exactly. Yep.
Oh, that was great.
So I really don't think this is too far-fetched to say that there's people paying for access to a live stream on the deep web where this sort of stuff goes on. I mean, I don't think that's too far-fetched to say that, especially with this Peter Scully guy, with Jeffrey Epstein, all the other scandals we've seen. I think this is absolutely something that goes on.
Wow. What a shame.
Yeah, man. It's really
Scary.
sick stuff, man. And another thing I always wonder is the victims, if this stuff goes on, how are the victims selected? Is it just random kidnappings? Is it somebody that did the rich person dirty? I mean, is it, criminals? I mean, I don't know. That's something else that I've often wondered. How are they selected?
Yeah, it was probably opportunity. The way sex trafficking is. It's, picking up girls at airports, or, girls at a new street, or boys at a new party, or I guess maybe it's just opportunity.
Yeah,
I mean,
man.
it's a good question. Time. Yeah, I mean, maybe they had a shortage of blondes.
Yeah, man.
I don't know. That's creepy.
Yeah, it's really sick stuff. That is the story of the Red Rooms. Hit the like button, subscribe. However you're listening to this, hit the follow button if it's on Spotify and all that good stuff.
If you guys are more interested in hearing content in a more story-like setting, you can always check out Staircase Stories, YouTube, Spotify, anywhere where you get your podcasts. Check that out as well. We have so much more content for you guys coming. Staircase Conspiracy is going to keep on rolling out week after week. And as always, guys, thanks for visiting us on the Staircase. Peace.
Later.
Stabbing him several times in the throat and face until ultimately the intruder stabbed him in his skull. The killer would follow behind the bleeding mother. continually stabbing both her and her daughter well beyond their point of death. He would then use the Miyazawa's bathroom, taking a gigantic dump in the toilet.
Contents of this episode may not be suitable for all. Listener discretion is advised.
What's up, everyone? Thank you so much for joining us back on Staircase Conspiracies. I am Nathan, and with me, as always, is Nico. What's up, man? How's your week been?
Yeah, I mean, it's going pretty good, man. Just trying to stay busy. I'm putting out a new single on the 25th called Outworking Everybody. So I've just been trying to work on that, getting that promoted. But other than that, it's been pretty chill. What about you, man?
Pretty much the same, dude. Just been working myself, just trying to working on some more Staircase stories, trying to get those out as soon as possible. But other than that, it's been kind of slow.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that, dude. Like, before I finished this song, I was like, geez, I don't know what to even write about the song. Like, I have all these songs in my phone, and I'm like, every time I try to record, I'm like, I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like that. And it's just frustrating as hell.
Yeah, I mean, unless nothing's going on, it's kind of hard to get inspired, I guess.
Yeah, I hear you. So what do we got tonight, man? That's what I want to know.
Well, like we talked about in the last episode, we got the Setagaya Massacre. And I remember last time you said you had never heard of it, right?
Never, ever. I don't have no idea what that is.
All right, well, this is a unsolved crime that took place in Japan at the end of 2000. And it's an unsolved case that's actually still going on to this day.
Dang, all right.
Ready?
Let's go, baby.
All right, man, buckle up because this one gets brutal. So let's get into it.
Nice.
On the night of December 30th, 2000, a modest family of four, the Miyazawas, consisting of 44-year-old Mikio, his 41-year-old wife, Yasuko, 8-year-old daughter, Nina, and their mentally challenged 6-year-old son, Ray, would go to sleep in their beautiful 2-story home that sat right up against the Setagaya Park, providing the perfect setting for the couple's young children. However, this perfect setting would soon turn into a nightmare. Around 11:30 p.m., upstairs, in their empty bathroom, fingers crept underneath an unlocked window, lifting as sounds of metal on metal gently rang through the empty bathroom. An unknown figure slowly entered the home from a branch extending from a tall tree located at the park right behind the home. As the intruder slowly made his way down the hall, he entered the first room he came to, young Ray's. Silently, he stood over the young boy and began strangling him with no hesitation. Mikio, alerted by the odd noise coming from his son's room, prompted him to check things out. Seeing the unknown figure standing over his son's lifeless body, Mikio flew towards his attacker in a rage no father should ever have to feel.
Dang.
Yeah, dude. Could you imagine walking in and seeing I don't want to get too crazy, but you see your son laying there like that, and there's like a dude in your room?
I would see pure red, bro. You got me messed up. I would, woo.
Avenging his son, he managed to draw blood from the murderer in a hand-to-hand fight. However, the intruder would pull a sashimi bacho blade on Mikio. You know what a sashimi bacho blade is?
The only thing I know about sashimi is from the scary movies when they have that little kid that's a Toyota sashimi.
Sushi. Sashimi.
You know what I'm talking about?
Well, that's pretty much it. So sashimi is like I guess a style of cooking fish. If I'm like totally way off here, and I might actually, let's just put that in there for our fact checkers that this one might be off here. But basically, it's a certain knife to help cut like tuna, sashimi tuna, and stuff like that. But it's like a Japanese, it's like a certain blade, stabbing him several times in the throat and face until ultimately the intruder stabbed him in his skull, stabbing him so hard it broke the end of the knife, leaving its metal remains in Mikio's skull.
Wait, so let me picture this. So the dad walks in, sees what's going on, and attacks the bad guy.
Yeah.
But the bad guy actually ends up stabbing the dad in the head?
Yeah, so the guy starts wrestling the dad and then pulls out a knife once he kind of realizes, like, oh crap, the dad is overpowering me a little bit here, because he ended up drawing some blood from the intruder, which is an important point.
Got you. Okay.
Keep in mind.
Gotcha.
So he stabs him so hard that it actually broke the tip of the knife blade into his skull. So the guy was kind of left with without much of a weapon anymore.
Wow.
The killer would then enter the kitchen, where he would take a knife from the Miyazawa silverware, replacing his broken weapon. He would then move back to the upstairs hallway, where he pulled down on the cord that revealed a staircase where Yasuko and Nina, the mother and daughter, were sleeping unknowingly in the attic room. So it's kind of like Hey Arnold. How Hey Arnold, you have like an upstairs, and then there's like a little pull down rope for the attic, and then there's another little room upstairs. Right. So the mom and daughter is just chilling upstairs in that room. They're kind of sleeping in this little bed that's upstairs. Dad was working downstairs and some stuff, and then the young boy was asleep. So that's just to kind of give you a little bit of the layout of kind of what's going on here.
Yeah. That Hey Arnold house was always cool to me, man.
Dude, especially his room. Come on. Slowly creeping upon his unsuspecting victims, the killer moved over Nina, raised his blade high, and delivered devastating stabs to her face and stomach. This would wake Yasuko, the mom, as she would attempt to grab her daughter and get out of the bed. However, the killer would dig his blade deep into Yasuko's back, causing her to fall to the floor.
Damn.
Yasuko would attempt to stand and drag Nina's body down out of the attic, but the loss of blood would seal her fate on the staircase. As her last bits of energy, as her last bits of energy ran out. Here, the killer would follow behind the bleeding mother, continually stabbing both her and her daughter well beyond their point of death.
Dang, that sounds like a passion kill is what they call it, like a passionate, murder.
Exactly, dude. So far, each death has been totally different too, right? So the son gets strangled. The dad gets stabbed in the head. Once he's dead, he moves on. And then, like you're saying, the mom and the daughter are like brutally stabbed well beyond, their death. So that's, it's a really weird situation.
Yeah, they would call, I've seen enough shows where they call it a passion crime or whatever.
Yeah,
exactly. Like you were really passionate about this, so you just kept on going. You almost like the person they're killing really hurt them at some point.
Which is weird because Nina is only 8 years old.
Right.
She got the same brutal attacking as the mom did.
Right.
So yeah, it's extremely odd. The other thing that's odd too is like the mom is basically bleeding out and just losing energy as she's walking down the stairs and just kind of like dies right there. I mean, I couldn't even imagine thinking that you're getting your kid out and then you're just like kind of slowly slipping away.
Everything you've got. And it's just not enough. Woo.
However, this would not be the end to this horrible night.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it.
All right, so this is where everything just like goes off the hinges, okay? This is where everything just you start scratching your head. After the murders took place, the killer would move through the home in search of a first aid kit, bandaging the wounds Mikio had caused him, the dad. You remember he hurt him upstairs earlier. He then undressed, leaving his clothes behind in the hallway. And then he would redress in some new attire, leaving a hit bag behind, all the while leaving dirty footprints all around the house.
Wow, rookie mistake.
Rookie mistake. Moving back into the kitchen, he drank 4 bottles of barley tea. He ate a melon.
The fuck?
He ate 4 ice creams from the Miyazawa's fridge.
What?
He's not done. He took a brief nap on the upstairs sofa,
Oh,
and he even left behind 10 items on the couch. He left behind.
did he take a dump in there too?
We'll get to that. He left behind a knife, a scarf, the hit bag that he had, a sweater.
Real quick question about the hit bag. Do you know what all was in there? Or is that...
So the theory is the clothes that he had redressed into was probably what was in the hit bag. More than likely.
And his weapons and all
you're
that.
right. Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
So he also had the sweater, a jacket, hat, gloves, his shoes, 2 ironed handkerchiefs. I'll come back to that in a minute, but 2 of them were ironed, which is a little strange. He then used the Miyazawa's computer looking into movie times at a local theater. Leaving
This guy wants to be caught.
leaving fingerprints everywhere, dude. He would then use the Miyazawa's bathroom, taking a gigantic dump in the toilet. And even more disturbing, he wouldn't flush the toilet.
Okay, this is just...
The final act committed by the killer would be the ransacking of Mikio's home office. The killer would take personal files, Mikio's wallet, and Mikio's house keys, and throw them into the feces-filled toilet. They say that the killer resided in the home anywhere from 2 to 10 hours.
Wow. Just moseying around their stuff.
All right, so how do we know so much information about a case where there were no survivors? How could we possibly know? Well, the killer, like I said, left so much evidence behind that we were actually able to basically paint a visual picture of what happened that night. So here's what happened the next morning. Yasuko's mother, the grandma, would attempt to make several phone calls to the Miyazawa's household, but to no avail. The killer had cut their phone lines. This prompted the elderly woman to go to her daughter's home and check on her family, finding the bodies of her beloved family. Yasuko's mother would call the police, and soon the investigation into these grisly murders would begin. And much to the police investigators' surprise, the crime scene was absolutely covered in evidence of what had happened in the early morning of December 31st.
Covered.
I mean, it's literally just covered in all sorts of DNA, his blood, his poop, his, just his clothes, his hair, just everything. Like you said, he just wants to get caught. But
Yeah, dude.
let's take a moment to go over the evidence the police were able to gather regarding the killer. First, the intruder had bled from his wound, leaving plenty of DNA behind, revealing the killer's blood to be type A. While the police waited on results searching the National Criminal Database for a match, they would move on to the next clue. Based on the clothing left behind, they were able to identify the height of the assailant at around 5'7". He was aged anywhere between 15 and 35, and the clothing left behind gave the impression of a skater boy.
15 to 35. Wow.
Yeah, which is, it's kind of like I feel like that's a big age
Yeah.
gap, especially when you say 15. But there's some reasons why they say 15 or kind of like a little bit older.
Yeah, so either we're talking about a teenager or a grown man. So that's kind of a big gap.
Yeah, or anything in between, on top of
Yeah.
that. The footprints were identified as having a size incompatible with Japanese foot sizing. Instead, the shoe was of Korean design, a noteworthy detail as it could shed light on the ethnicity of the killer, because they were in Japan, but he's wearing a shoe that doesn't even come from Japan.
Wow, that's interesting.
The feces left behind identified him as a male, and also provided the details of his previous meal being string beans and sesame seeds. I knew you'd laugh at that shit. He's like, yeah, give me more of those sesame seeds. Dog, I love that shit. I'm like, how is sesame seeds a meal? Like, it's so weird. But I guess it just didn't digest, maybe. I don't know.
Sesame seeds.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Investigators suggest that this is a quote unquote boring meal, the kind of meal a mother would give to a son, leading authorities to pursue the theory that the assailant could have been a teen skateboarder from the local park.
Dude, this is something a mom would give their son.
I guess in Japanese culture and around in the 90s, maybe like a poor kid, you know, they get some green beans and they pour some sesame seeds on it. I have no idea what goes into that theory,
Wow.
but that's their theory. All right, but there's some stuff that backs that up, okay? Investigators would discover that Mikio, the father, had been overheard getting into a minor argument with teens from the local park just days prior to the attack. However, two other pieces of evidence poke holes into this theory. First, the hit bag previously mentioned contained, and it's weird that you were asking me earlier what was in there. There's a little bit more to it than I mentioned earlier. The hit bag contained less than a handful of sand. Authorities were able to trace the sand to a beach within 100 miles north of Los Angeles, where an American military base was located.
Ooh.
Leading some investigators to believe that the killer may have had an American military background.
This is getting interesting now. I like this.
Adding to this theory was the discovery of the iron handkerchief. Research suggests that kids typically wouldn't iron such an article, but perhaps a military soldier would, considering it's a part of their dressing protocol. However, this could also be an indicator of a mother ironing her son's handkerchiefs.
Right.
So investigators would soon hypothesize a list of suspects aside from the skateboarder theory and military soldier. First, it could have been a drifter just passing by. Maybe he had the random idea of killing.
That happens a lot, just random people, and that's scary. That's so scary to me that somebody could be walking down my street right now and just randomly pick this corner house, which happens to be me, and if he wants to get in here, he will get in here.
Yeah.
Like, that's scary.
And some of the evidence to suggest that is that he was wearing different shoes than what's in Japan. So maybe he's a drifter coming through. He had sand that wasn't at anywhere near in Japan at all. It's from, a beach 100 miles off Los Angeles. So a lot of things to suggest that maybe he was coming through. Maybe he had that bag and that was all he had on him. That was his clothes. Maybe he ate as much as he could in the house. Maybe he took a nap because he hasn't slept anywhere, hasn't eaten anywhere.
Yeah.
So there's
That's a good point.
There's a lot of things to suggest that it could have just been a drifter for sure.
Yeah, I'm thinking there might be something in that house that the military wanted or something.
Another theory suggests a cover-up, making it look like a skateboarder by purposefully leaving misleading evidence for authorities to find. So maybe someone did want to have Mikio, the father, killed. And he, like you're saying, went through the paperwork and stuff like that and made it look like, oh, it's just like the teen skateboarder, so it's nothing too big. But the problem with that theory, though, is that the mom and the daughter were brutally murdered the way that they were. So it's kind of like you said. I mean, there's too much evidence to suggest crimes of passion. You don't see crimes of passion and a cover-up and trying to just get some paperwork. It's kind of weird. Another theory posited could be that the family had been requested to move for the expansion of the roads and had reportedly refused, being only one of 4 houses left on the road. So the theory is like a hitman could have been hired to eliminate the family so that the house could be demolished. The problem though is that the killings had only kept the structure in place for almost 20 years. It's since been demolished, but it was in place for over 20 years. It would be kind of counterproductive unless they didn't realize that would happen, and they were kind of like, well, if we could just murder this whole family, then they'll sell the house or shut down the house. I mean, that's very possible. I mean, there's only 4 houses left. So that could have been, that's...
Yeah, Bob, these guys aren't getting out of the house. They're not moving. I'll just kill them.
Yeah. Do you want to try an eviction notice? Nah. Just
kill them.
Just kill them and poop. And poop in their toilet. Hate that guy.
Oh my God.
But the most convincing theory in my mind is the cab driver's passenger theory. So this one gets kind of interesting.
All right.
On December 30th, late at night, so the night of the crime, a cab driver alleged to picking up 3 middle-aged men on the same street as the Miyazawa family home. The cab driver told police that one of the men left blood from a wound he could see on the man's hand. Whenever he went to the hospital, the women and doctors and nurses who were working on him said that he was oddly calm, even though the wound he had was all the way down to bone. Like he could actually see bone.
Oh, shit.
He was super calm. He didn't give his name. He didn't say what the wound had come from. And this is the time that the cab driver picked him up is right around the time that he could have, potentially have left the home at that time. But if you're going to take a nap and you have a hand that's bleeding, that's kind of another odd theory. So no other leads ever came from that theory. With 12,500 pieces of evidence in hand and over 246,000 investigators collectively working on this case, one would assume this to be an extremely solvable one.
Yeah.
However, despite having 35 officers still assigned to the case in 2020, the Setagaya Massacre remains open to this day.
Wow, that's interesting, bro.
So crazy.
All that evidence.
I mean, he just didn't leave his body behind.
Is that a picture of the fucking video, man?
I mean, it's like, man, like we've caught you. And it's still ongoing. This is not like, oh, well, that was the 70s or that was the 60s. That was the 80s. That's, different time. Like we're talking like 2020. They're still trying to figure out who this guy is and what happened. It's so strange.
Yikes.
I mean, what do you think is the most plausible theory?
My mind goes right for like the deepest conspiracy. So to me, they live right next to that base. Mikio basically was probably working on something on the American base for them, or for maybe the Japanese or whatever the case is. But he had something of value in there. They came in, killed them all, took whatever they needed, and as far as why they took a dump in the thing and the passionate killing of the son and daughter, or the daughter and mom, I have no idea about that, dude.
Now, one thing that kind of comes to mind is that the whole cover-up idea. And if you think about it, there's kind of a lot of different cover-ups could be going on. It could be like the crime of passion. That kind of throws a wrench into everything. But if you could somehow tell someone, okay, I have this hit that needs to be done, kill them really crazy because it'll look like a crime of passion. I don't know. I don't know. It just seems like every theory kind of opens back up to, oh, well, I guess it could be this, but what about this or what about that? I keep going back to the shit in the toilet. And the fact that there's a wallet in there and the keys, it's almost like he's like, man, I'm gonna make someone have to grab this shit out. It's so weird. It's almost childlike. It's almost like something a kid would do,
or a person that is trained for that shit and says, let me do this because they know there's a skate park close by. This is gonna throw them off like crazy. I don't know. It's weird, bro.
Okay,
it's weird.
And one other thing. So, do you remember how I said the killer actually entered into the home?
Yeah, it was through the window, but right by the by the tree, right?
Yeah. So the tree was actually in the park, and there was a branch that extended from the tree in the park and it extended all the way over to the window. So whoever this person is had to scale up a tree, scale out the side of the branch, and then enter into the home. So that kind of also lends credibility to be like, well, a skateboarder would kind of maybe climb stuff, maybe be familiar with that park.
Right.
Maybe he did get into a fight with that person. And he said, you know what? I'm going to hurt your family. I'm going to do something to your wife, dude. I'm going to do something to your whatever. And then he breaks into the house, and maybe he starts strangling the kid because it's a little boy, and he's like, I don't really want to stab him and see blood, so let me just strangle him. And then the dad comes in, and he tries to take him on too, but he's like, okay, I have to use my knife at this point. And then maybe it just escalates and it just gets out of hand. And then maybe he has to, maybe he's like, well, I'm going to finish this job because I'm pissed off at this guy. And then he goes upstairs and
he's frustrated.
And he kills the wife and the daughter. And then he's like, you know what? Screw this guy. All his paperwork, obviously he's an important guy. Well, I'm going to show him how important he is. I'm going to put it in the toilet with my shit and with my seeds and everything, you know what I mean? My little green beans.
Yeah, that's a good one too, man.
Who knows, bro? But hey,
weird.
That's why we're here talking about this conspiracy.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Well, that's what I got. That's what I brought. Do you have your idea for your next theory? You know what one I really want you to bring? I really want you to bring the JFK theory to me, dude. I need it. Give it to me. Because I've actually gotten a few requests to do JFK, and I think that you're the best person to tell me, because you know this case probably better than anybody I know.
All right, you know what? Let's do it. I'll do the JFK.
Nice. All right. So
I'll do the JFK for the next episode.
All right, guys. So tune in 2 weeks from now. We got the JFK conspiracy. I cannot wait. I have my own theories. I'm sure everybody else has their own theories, but I know you're going to bring us a theory that we won't see coming. That's for sure.
Yeah, because I know every theory out there because I've done so much research on this stuff, because it's part of both of my worlds that I love, politics and conspiracies. So yeah, it's gonna be great.
Bring it, baby. I cannot wait.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. Once again, we will see you next time. Peace.
Peace out, guys. Hold on. I had a big ass roach on my wall. That's definitely going in the outtakes.
You're like, hold on. I'm like, yeah, I know, dude. It's crazy, right? And you're like, I got a big ass roach on my wall.
Where'd he go?
I should have put my hands behind my head. Oh, like this.
Wow, that one.
Hey, Nick, I think you need a little more salt water.
Alright, that fucker's gone.
He'll be back. What's up, man? How's your week been?
Oh, it's going pretty good, man. Just trying to stay busy.
Your camera.
Jesus Christ.
I saw myself fall and I was like, oh no.
Okay, there we go. That's better. And this one we're about to cover is exactly that, a scientific study as well as leaked documents. So have you ever actually heard of Atrazine? Do you have any idea what that is?
No, I have no idea.
It's actually used by almost every farmer out there, big industry farmer. They use it to actually prevent weeds and growth around their crops.
Oh, so maybe some of these chemicals that they're spraying on is somehow getting into our water system or it's getting into our soil.
So what would happen is they would breed these frogs and expose them to atrazine in their tanks.
Okay.
And over time, as they would grow, they would actually find some really shocking discoveries.
Contents of this episode may not be suitable for all. Listener discretion is advised.
What is going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Staircase Conspiracies. And as always, I am Nico, and my good friend Nathan is with me on the staircase. How has your week been, man, since our last episode?
What's up, man? Yeah, it's been pretty good. Got to see Scream, the new Scream. That was pretty cool. Did you are you a big Scream fan?
I wouldn't say a big fan, but I do like Scream. I'd be interested to see that once it comes out and everything.
Yeah, we got the movies leading up to the latest one on Vudu, and I started going through them again, and they like really grew on me. I was like, man, this is actually kind of good. I mean, they're bad, they're bad, but they're good, How's your week been?
It's been pretty busy, man. I've just been working and trying to make music. I'm kind of not really at a writer's block, but just like a creative block. I'm struggling putting out music, man, but I think I'm going to break through it. I'm working with a new producer, so I'm looking forward to that. So I should be putting out some new music here soon.
Awesome, man. Well, you want to get into this theory? I've been waiting.
Let's do it, man. This is the one. This should be really good.
Gay frogs.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about this. And everyone that's watching this, I guarantee already knows about this, but there is a lot more to the story.
Well, I've never heard of it. I know nothing about this. So
But you heard like the funny meme though, right? Like gay frogs?
I like I said last time, I have heard a few little things, but not enough to even tell you really anything. It just seemed like it was some like picture I saw once and that was it.
All right, buckle up because you're going to find out this is a pretty wild conspiracy, not just a funny meme.
All right.
Atrazine, a powerful chemical used in farms across the country. It's used to control certain types of weeds and other type of broadleaf. What if I told you that this has actually been found in our tap water? Back in 2016, Alex Jones of InfoWars said the following, quote, "I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the freaking frogs gay." I would
why would he say that right off the bat? He must know more information than just that being put into the water or tap water.
Yeah, so I'm actually a big fan of Alex Jones. I have been a long time. I was on the show. He goes home and just reads books, and reads white papers and leaked documents. And it's like, whoa, because he has to know this stuff. And a lot of people who watch his show that aren't fans of him think that he's just BSing and throwing things out there. But, this clip actually has now become completely infamous across social media. And I'm sure everyone listening has probably heard the clip. Probably everybody. I would insert the clip here, but Alex Jones is banned completely across all platforms.
What?
Yeah, YouTube, Spotify, Twitter, everything, Pinterest, everything you could think of, he's been banned.
Oh, wow. So he's not even like...
Yeah, dude.
Well, he's probably on his own website then, right?
Right. He has Infowars.com, band.video and all that. But
oh my gosh,
just to give you an
wild
idea, for those who don't know, I uploaded a video of a newsworthy subject that Alex was covering. Nobody else was covering it. So I transcribed it, his video, put the, clipped the video myself, put it on YouTube, made an article of it. That article got 27,000 reads in one day on my website.
Wow.
And YouTube took it down. Not because it was fake news. It was provable news. It's just because it was Alex Jones.
Wow. That's insane.
Yeah, I get it if it's fake news. I get that. But just banning the person is just unreal.
So you just put his name in there and they said, nope.
Yeah, man. Yep. The way Alex ranted about the topic was very theatrical, which he's kind of known for and is a part of his charm, per se. It isn't a surprise that most people wrote it off as a joke. Tons and tons of articles across the mainstream media was made on this topic, and they were completely bashing him like he was absolutely crazy. But I'm about to lay out the case that atrazine is in fact in our water and does in fact alter sexuality.
What?
Yeah, bro. It's funny because on the surface, this is like hilarious, but it's actually really like dark and really concerning.
Yeah, I thought this was going to be funny.
Yeah, it is funny, but it's like, we'll get to it. Let's just jump right in. You guys will see. Yeah. Alex Jones is known for his wild conspiracy theories. The mainstream media loves to make fun of some of the more outlandish theories that he does. However, from all the research I've done on the conspiracies that I've seen Alex talk about over the years, they've all been absolutely spot on, or at least 90% spot on. The only things he really gets wrong is like maybe the date or the number of something. So if he says this happened in 1994, such and such happened, but sometimes it'll be 1992. You know, I've never looked up a conspiracy from Alex and it be just absolutely a lie. I've never seen that.
Yeah.
Most of his theories are based off of either leaked, declassified documents, or even actual scientific studies. And this one we're about to cover is exactly that, a scientific study as well as leaked documents. So have you ever actually heard of atrazine? Do you have any idea what that is?
No, I have no idea, but is it something that is like found in like a lot of different things and it like turns out to be some crazy sounding word, but it's actually in everything?
So actually, it's a good question. It is widely used, not on many things, but it's actually used by almost every farmer out there, you know, big industry farmer. They use it to actually prevent weeds and growth around their crops. And inevitably, the atrazine actually gets sprayed onto the crops. And that's where basically a lot of this stuff is contaminated our crops, which we'll get into. And also the main issue is atrazine is being, you know, once you spray it on something, it's going to pool up and kind of run off into one of the in like a local bay or ditch or something.
Oh, so maybe some of these chemicals that they're spraying on is somehow getting into our water system or it's getting into our soil. Yeah. Contaminating, stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. And I'm going to show you as we go on here that is exactly happening.
Okay.
The source Alex actually is using in that clip and for that rant is actually a study that was done in 2002 by Dr. Tyrone Hayes. This guy's a bit of a character, but he's a very legitimate doctor and scientist.
Okay.
Yeah, if you see, I'll put some videos on the screen. He's kind of funny looking, but anyway, he's
right.
legit. So he's an actual endocrinologist at the University of California, Berkeley. So he's extremely legitimate.
Got it.
The study was conducted in this state-of-the-art lab at the university. So in other words, you know, this wasn't done in somebody's basement, you know, with a do-it-yourself home, you know, study kit or something.
No, we got lab coats up in here.
Yeah, exactly. We got lab coats and shit.
Yeah, they got goggles. They got
man,
little foot booties.
Yeah,
whole thing. Got
rubber gloves and everything. They had a number of male frogs that were exposed to atrazine for their entire lives. So what would happen is they would breed these frogs and expose them to atrazine in their tanks.
Okay.
And over time, as they would grow, they would actually find some really shocking discoveries. Dr. Hayes' study revealed that exposing these amphibians to this toxic chemical actually turned male frogs into females.
Wait, so it actually changed their gender?
Yeah, dude. And what I mean by that is that actually they turned basically into hermaphrodites.
So they had both?
Yeah, so listen to this. The males were not only having sex with other males, but the males were actually developing full-blown eggs.
So they just started developing like ovaries and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, so they had ovaries and everything that you need to basically have eggs. So the study also found that their voice boxes were altered, their testosterone levels were next to nothing. The funny thing is, the voice boxes, I mean, a voice box for a frog, who cares? But that's actually used to attract mates. So if they don't have a proper voice box to do their little sex calls, they're not going to be able to mate.
That makes sense. So these things were having the male frogs were having sex with the other male frogs.
Yeah, exactly.
But not impregnating or anything like that.
Well, no, they were because the males were actually. I'll put a clip of the video from the study of the male actually having eggs attached to him, just like a female.
Atrazine, is this a main drug that they give to people who are transitioning and like, you know, becoming a transgender? or being a transgender? Is this like medication that goes into that?
I mean, they probably could.
But no. I thought for
no,
sure you were going to
not-
be like, yes, that is one of the main ingredients. I didn't know it was going to be like, oh, dude, no.
No, dude, that makes perfect sense.
I mean, if it's doing
just
the
go to
job.
Home Depot, get some. Go to Home Depot.
Oh, you can get it at Home Depot. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Go get some and try. Is that what you said? Okay. All right. Next
Yeah,
week, I'm going to be like,
so
everybody, my voice box. It works.
My diet of atrazine. Oh my God. But why does this matter to us everyday people? We're not growing crops. We're not worried about frogs being gay or having babies when they're males. This is a weed killer. Nobody drinks this stuff, right? I mean, no, that's totally incorrect. And why this is so scary and so important is because, like I said, atrazine is massively used across the United States. Roughly 80 million pounds of it is used per year. So that, I mean, it's a ton of this stuff getting sprayed all over the stuff that we eat and around big water, bodies of water. So this is, I mean, this is dangerous stuff.
For sure, yeah. I mean, especially if it's on all of our farming stuff, like you said, it's on everything that we eat. And then, yeah, I can only imagine, like you were saying earlier, it puddling up and getting into other places.
Yeah, dude. This stuff is so strong. There was, during the study, Dr. Hayes actually went to Africa to study some of the African frogs there. They not only did they do the same thing, but also upwards of 1,000 miles away from the water that was contaminated, it showed also contamination of the water. Okay, let me put it into terms that are a little bit easier to understand, like our everyday sort of thing, because nobody really heard of atrazine unless you're doing studies on this stuff. You've probably heard or seen those commercials that kind of run late at night or whatever by, law firms talking about Roundup. Have you seen those?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, so, yeah. Roundup is basically, they have weed killer, they have mosquito sort of control stuff. And they're recently, over the past couple of years, they've been come under fire for people who use it actually getting cancer, different types of cancer. So that's what those commercials are for. Call us if you use Roundup and have been diagnosed with cancer or lymphoma.
Yeah. Yeah. Call us if you use Windex and your eyeball exploded.
Yeah, all that sort of stuff. That's kind of similar to this. I mean, that's kind of like a pesticide sort of deal. Well, that stuff is just weed killer and mosquito killer for the outside of your home, for like home use. We're talking about big ass farms using huge, sprayers and all that stuff, spraying almost every day. So that's, I mean, you can't even compare the two. A little bottle of Roundup giving a bunch of people cancer. What do you think this stuff is doing? I mean, it's insane.
So obviously, I mean, we got this information. So obviously we know about atrazine. We know that farmers use it. We know the effects of what it's doing, but yet we're still using it. Like maybe the farmers feel like the benefits outweigh the consequences. And it's like, we only know the consequences because one scientist did a test, or is this something that's been tested like across the board? I guess that's why it's on this channel, right? It's because it's a conspiracy.
Yeah, I mean, so that's a good question. I mean, and then just to point out real quick, this all occurred with the frogs at an atrazine level as low as 0.1 parts per billion, so ppb, which is 30 times lower than the levels that are allowed in our drinking water per the EPA. They allow 3 parts per billion in our drinking water.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So you're saying, I'm assuming that, but the water that they've tested, they found it to be 30 times higher.
Right. So what they're saying is the EPA says, okay, no more than 3 parts per billion can be in the water. If anything above that, it's considered contaminated and you can't drink it. It's toxic. That doesn't mean that if you go test your water right now, it's going to have exactly 3 parts per billion.
I see.
They're just saying that it could be anything 3 or less.
That standard amount that we have allowed is 30 times higher than what the frogs were given.
Right, exactly.
Wow. It's insane, bro.
It is, man. And here's where the real conspiracy starts coming in. Some very strange stuff starts happening.
Now the conspiracy starts to come in? Not at the frogs mutating? All right.
Well, all this, everything I just named you is factual stuff. It's all backed up by leaked documents and everything.
Okay, I'm with you.
So this is where the weirdness and, BS that starts to come in. So a company called Syngenta, which is the leading global provider of agricultural science and technology. So basically they research the effects of the stuff that is sprayed and used around our food and crops, supposedly for our safety.
Right.
Well, they contracted Dr. Hayes to study the effects of atrazine before his college study. After he found that this stuff is extremely dangerous and has adverse effects, on frogs and, who knows what else, they basically tried to silence him. This is a quote of Dr. Hayes. Eventually, they asked me to manipulate the data in ways that was inappropriate to try and make it go away, end quote. After the study was published, his research funding was cut and he ultimately resigned. He was basically forced to resign.
Wow.
Because they did not like what he found.
Right.
And it gets even weirder. Get this. The EPA conducted a study on their own of atrazine and its effects, and they said, quote, although there is sufficient evidence to formulate a hypothesis that atrazine does cause adverse effects, there is currently not enough data to confirm or deny the hypothesis. End quote. What the hell does that even mean, dude? Like, that's the most non-answer ever.
So they said there's enough evidence here to formulate a hypothesis. However, not quite enough evidence here to make a hypothesis.
Yeah, to confirm or deny the hypothesis.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Thank you for all your hard work.
Yeah, I mean, dude, how do they think this is okay? To make matters worse, the EPA then brought on a company to help with the study. And guess who the company was? Yeah, you guessed it. Syngenta.
No. Oh my gosh.
The same company that already did a study with Dr. Hayes, and when they didn't like the findings, tried to silence him. There's documents showing that Syngenta actively tried to find ways to discredit Dr. Hayes. I'm talking shadiness. And I'll put the links in the description and on the screen. Go after his wife, discredit his work, buy websites with his name so that when people Google his name, it'll forward right to our website. I mean, just really bad, shady stuff, man.
Holy crap. That's wild.
Instead of saying, this is wrong in his study, this is wrong, and this is how we can prove it, they say, this guy's wrong, let's just shut him up.
That's insane.
That's the way to, give confidence to the American people.
Yeah, seriously.
And this is all like actual documents, man. There's so much more BS surrounding this by the mainstream media and the government agencies like the EPA. And this is where the conspiracy for me comes in. Basically, they are saying that Dr. Hayes' study basically wasn't good enough and nobody has been able to recreate his findings. However, if you look on various forums and YouTube videos of people explaining this with, many degrees, much more smart than me, they explain this in a way that makes sense and they back up what he says. Those can be found online. And Dr. Hayes has hours of presentations he does at colleges on all this stuff, and he goes in detail. There's a lot more stuff that we can go into, but we're gonna cut it here.
Yeah.
We could do a part 2 if you guys want to see that, but we may just do it anyway.
I mean, if there's more to this, it's like, holy crap!
Yeah, dude.
Where does it even go from here?
Yeah, this is like a rabbit hole, but a really important one to go down.
Yeah. So what can we do about this?
I mean, because I believe this 100%. And originally, people say that, well, I don't drink tap water, but you use it to brush your teeth, you use it to wash your hands, you use it to shower, you use it to, wash your clothes.
Teeth.
I mean,
I never thought of that. Oh crap.
Yeah, you don't think about that. When you shower, when you get out, your hands are wrinkly because all that water was absorbed into your skin.
Yeah. Huh.
So all the fluoride in the water, which again, that's something I might want to do a video on.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Next thing they're gonna do is put like bleach in there, just a little bit of bleach, and it won't hurt you. It's just to get you all sanitized, and people will be like, and then people will be like,
You're real deep
yum.
clean.
Yeah, totally. They won't lie to us. So to wrap this up real quick, for those that are saying, why would they do this? Why would they benefit? So this is a real deep conspiracy right here, what I'm about to say. The theory is they do this for population control. Obviously, we know that homosexuals can't have children, which means that that is a form of population control. And, you know, the lesser people, the easier it is to control. And I'm just going to leave you with that. So
Wow.
take from that what you want.
Well, that was a good one, man. You really brought it. So,
Nate, I want to hear what you have for us for the next episode.
all right, man. So we've had some fun with the Antarctica theory. We just did gay frogs. It wasn't as much fun as I thought I was going to have, but, we had some fun with some lighthearted ones, but I'm about to tell you a really crazy unsolved case that's called the Setagaya Massacre, which took place in late 2000 in Japan.
Ooh, I have never heard that.
Yeah.
A Japanese massacre. That sounds good.
Yeah. And it's a case that's still open to this day. So it's about 22-year-old case.
Dang. All right, man. See, this is great. I love hearing ones that I never heard.
Yeah. So if any of you guys out there like to have content in a more story-based format, you can also check out Staircase Stories, where we tell 3 original tales. One of them is true. The other 2 are fake, trying to throw you off. And it's your job to try to guess which one of those is true. We have a new one of those coming out next month. So be sure to check that out too.
All right, man. I can't wait for the Staircase Stories, the new episode next month.
Yeah, man, it's going good. We're having a good time doing it too. So,
well, again, guys, thank you so much for joining us here on The Staircase. I have been your host, Nicholas.
I'm Nathan. We will see you guys next time. Peace.
Peace out. Stay safe.
3, where we tell 3. Oh, fuck. Where we tell 3. Fucking A. What am I trying to say? Oh, yeah, the original. Where we.
Dr. Hayes' study revealed that exposing these amphibians, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Dr. Hayes' study revealed that exposing these oh my God, I can't say it.
What's up, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for another conspiracy on The Staircase. I am your host, Nathan, and with me today is a very special guest and friend of the podcast, Cade. What's going on, man?
What's going on, dude? Happy to be here. I'm excited. I believe this is my second time returning to the show. I was on Staircase for an episode, so I'm excited about conspiracies because I haven't done it yet.
Well, we appreciate you coming on, filling in for the spot of Nick, who couldn't be here today.
Yeah, man, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me on. What's been going on with you?
Well, the only thing I can really say is the Batman. Finally got to see it. Yeah, not my favorite movie. I will say that. I need to see it again. I only saw it once, but yeah, I know you saw it. I know you saw it twice. What did you think?
I've seen it twice. Yes. Dude, to be honest with you, I think I may be a little obsessed with it. I loved it. This Batman movie with Robert Pattinson as a whole, I think is just. It felt like Batman to me more than any other movie. I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, the whole film noir aspect of it and everything, that's what was beautiful about it. I mean, dude, I don't think there was a single person cast in that movie that I didn't like.
True. Yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, everyone nailed it. I think everybody nailed that. But yeah, man, and the Riddler.
Yeah, they modeled him after famous serial killers like the Zodiac Killer. So that was pretty cool to see. So without further ado, you want to get into this wild conspiracy I have for you today?
Let's do it, man.
All right. So sit back, and that's going to be pretty easy for you. You're coming off of surgery, aren't you?
Yes, I had surgery a couple of days ago, so my foot's all wrapped up and propped up. And because of that, I have officially, and I hadn't told you this, I have officially completely watched my first Harry Potter movie ever. Oh!
Dang! For people unaware, Cade does not like Harry Potter, doesn't like magic, kind of in particular.
Okay, well, hold on. We got to be a little more specific with that, because I do like magic, man.
Wait. Which one? Which one did you watch?
The first one. I started with number 1.
Okay.
I got to start with number 1. I mean, I can't.
You got to start with number 1.
Yeah, I can't skip ahead. There's no way I could do that. But the thing about Harry Potter, dude, you don't know how pissed I'd be if I was a wizard. Like, I found out I was going to get to go to Hogwarts and all that. But, dude, I suck at studying. I hate having to read books and remember things. So there's a scene in the first one, and they're all 3 stuck in these, like, vine-like things. And Hermione has to do a little spell to get Ron through, and she can't remember it. So in that moment, it would have never came to me. My boy Ron would have died because I didn't pay attention in class that day. I didn't get the words right. I was holding my wand the wrong way.
But see, that's why they had Hermione.
Oh, she's a boss, man. She's a boss. No doubt about it. It's just always been hard for me to get into Harry Potter because like all other wizards like Gandalf in Lord of the Rings, I think he's freaking awesome, but to me, that's a different type of wizard. I don't know. You're the professional here. Is Gandalf the same type of wizard as Harry?
But you said I'm a expert, and now I'm like, oh gosh.
You're my expert.
I would say yes.
I would think so. Like, okay, so did he have to go to a school? I know every wizard, I guess, has to study their spells and everything.
Yeah, exactly. That's the key. Every wizard has to read some sort of spell book. So there's some sort of book, and that's basically what school is.
And that's where you lose me.
So are you going to watch another one?
I'm going to keep it going because I do want to know what's up with Voldemort. He's always what's been intriguing to me about the movies, but so I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to go. I'm going to get on number 2 tonight.
Well, hey, there you go. Well, I'm happy to hear that. Well, it kind of got us a little derailed, but it's Harry Potter, so it's always worth it. So sit back. Again, it's going to be pretty easy with you, as your foot doesn't work right now. Listen to this unbelievable story that Netflix actually just bought the film rights to, and they plan on releasing an episodic retelling of the case later this year. This is the infamous unsolved case of the Watcher. You ever heard of it?
Nope.
Okay, let's get into it. In June 2014, married couple Derek and Maria Broaddus purchased their dream home on the highly coveted Boulevard in Westfield, New Jersey. 657 Boulevard, to be exact. This particular street was the street to live on. If you lived here, you had made it. The home valued at $1.3 million, a pretty large shift from their previous $300,000 home. The Broadduses also had 3 young children and could not be happier to start their new life at this new home. However, soon this picture-perfect family would begin to experience true psychological horror.
So did the dad get a promotion or something to go from, what'd you say, a 300,000 to a 1 point something million?
That's a good question.
That's a conspiracy right there. I mean, how's somebody gonna go like something changed? Okay, something changed.
They had just closed on the house 3 days previously, so Derek wanted to get a jump on some of the improvements they had planned on making to their new home. He decided to start painting the walls their new color, and after he had finished, maybe out of habit, he decided to check the mail. However, there was only one single card-shaped envelope inside. Derek opened it and began to read. Quote, "How did you end up here? Did 657 Boulevard call to you with its force within? 657 Boulevard has been the subject of my family for decades now, and as it approaches its 110th birthday, I have been put in charge of watching and waiting for its second coming. My grandfather watched the house in the 1920s, and my father watched in the 1960s. It is now my time. Do you know the history of the house? Why are you here? I will find out." End quote. The letter would go on to identify the vehicle the family drove and the fact that they had contractors steadily working on the property. Quote, "I see already that you have flooded 657 Boulevard with contractors so that you can destroy the house as it was supposed to be. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Bad move. You don't want to make 657 Boulevard unhappy. You have children. I have seen them. So far, I think there are 3 that I have counted.
Yeah, I'm immediately probably just going to move.
You're right.
At that moment. I mean, that's just hitting too many details. Somebody's creeping.
Yeah. So the letter goes on. The anonymous author would go on to ask if they had plans for having more children. Quote, do you need to fill the house with the young blood I requested? Insinuating that the previous owners had been requested to bring the writer of the letter the children. Quote, better for me. Was your old house too small for the growing family? Or was it greed to bring me your children? Once I know their names, I will call to them and draw them to me. And here is where the letter really gets terrifying. Who am I? There are hundreds and hundreds of cars that drive by 657 Boulevard each day. Maybe I am in one. Look at all the windows you can see from 657 Boulevard. Maybe I am in one. Look out any of the many windows in 657 Boulevard at all the people who stroll by each day. Maybe I am one. End quote.
That's just a dick move. I mean, that's just straight telling the man that you're threatening or whatever this guy's doing, that he's just telling him, I'm here. I'm right here. You know,
he's playing a game with them. He's playing this psychological game with this family. So the letter would actually end with this ominous message. Quote, welcome, my friends. Welcome. Let the party begin. Signed, the Watcher. End quote. So he already signs it off with this anonymous, kind of threatening title of the Watcher. I mean, man, that's just the creepiest thing. You feel safe in your own home, and now you move into this new home, and all of a sudden you're already being threatened, your children, they're talking about your children. They're saying young bloods. That's some weird language to be using, you know?
Young blood.
That's exactly what I thought of too. I thought, maybe they're being kind of cool. What up, young blood? But I don't know. It doesn't.
Hey man, I see you got 3 young bloods over there. All right. Did I ever tell you that in my high school that one of the basketball coaches' name was Youngblood?
That was his actual name?
Every time I saw him, Coach Youngblood. You can't help it.
That's weird. What would you do if you got this letter? What's the first thing you're doing?
Jeez, man, I don't know. You'd probably go straight to the cops to start off with because it's too detailed. It's the guy is too brave. I mean, he's just straight up telling them what's going on.
Yeah.
And even if it were a joke or something, at this moment, you don't know that, so you got to, I don't know, I think you got to play it safe. I'd probably just go to the cops just to immediately be like, hey, look, this is what's going on. This is where we are. Just in case anything goes down, this was the first step, and I guess more of protecting yourself too, if you think about it.
Yeah, definitely, dude. So Derek instantly ran back inside of the empty house. It was already after 10 p.m., so he turned off every light in fear that the author of the letter was still watching him. He called the police, who arrived within minutes, and after showing the officer the letter, the officer simply replied, and I quote, "What the fuck is this?" End quote. Of course, this came with the usual questions of, do you have any enemies? Or do you know anyone capable of writing something like this? To which Derek was absolutely clueless. Derek decided to rush back home to his wife and children elsewhere in Westfield, and that night, he and Maria wrote to the previous owners of the home, John and Andrea Woods, to ask if they knew anything about this odd letter, or if they had in fact been requested to find a buyer who had children. The Woodses would respond the following day to confirm that they did in fact receive a letter by someone also signed the Watcher. However, this letter, although odd, did more to thank the Woods for their time in the home and that it would continue to be in good hands than it did to scare the Woods off. The Woods claimed to have never received any kind of letters like that in the 23 years of living on the boulevard. So they threw the letter away and thought nothing more about it. The Woodses would go with Maria to the police station, where Detective Leonard Lugo told her and the Woodses not to tell anyone about the letters, including her new neighbors, most of whom she had never met, and all of whom were now suspects.
I was going to say that's weird until he said they're all suspects. Yeah, that makes sense. I was like, oh, no, he in on it. He guilty, bro. No, but he right.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, do you think that the Woodses are,
the biggest difference I see between the previous owners and the new owners is you said the new owners, right when they moved in, they started doing some remodeling or something. I wonder if the previous owners ever did that. Sounds like they didn't, because their letter sounded nice, I guess you could say. Like they weren't changing the house, so they were cool with it, I guess.
Right. But it's also like, yeah, but we don't have the letter. So yeah, of course we got one, but we don't have it anymore. That could also be a little suspicious.
Did they have children?
I don't believe so.
And that he needs that young blood, so maybe that's why he didn't worry about them.
He needs that young blood. Over the next couple of weeks, the Broadduses were on high alert, as expected. Derek canceled an upcoming work trip, and every time Maria would bring the kids to the new home, she would call their names when they would run off too far in fear of someone watching them. Derek had given a tour to a couple on the block, and he actually froze when the wife made the comment, quote, "It'll be nice to have some young blood in the neighborhood," end quote.
Suspicious, man. Suspicious.
Not good.
Nobody says young blood like that.
Not good.
I mean, nobody just uses.
That's such an odd word to say. Well, okay, so it's definitely like an older person's
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
language,
Yeah.
I would think. So this is a sentence that Derek would have never have given too much thought of before, but after that letter, obviously, young blood's high alert. About a week after the letter had arrived, the Broadduses had attended a neighborhood barbecue. I don't even know why they would have gone to a barbecue after all of this, but whatever. They attended a barbecue. And because they hadn't spoke to anyone about the letters, they did everything they could to observe the surrounding neighbors, just to see if they could kind of, pick up any creepiness from any of their, neighbors. Even the general contractor of the new home noticed strange things occurring. He had just put up a large construction sign that required great effort to stake into the ground the night previously. But the next morning when he returned, it had been ripped up and thrown in the middle of the yard. So think about that. This took some serious work to get this sign to the ground. The next morning just yanked up. That tells me I don't want you here. That's kind of for real.
They don't want the house changing.
Kind of reminds me a little bit of Monster House, a little bit. You seen that movie?
I was thinking the same thing. I love that movie, Monster House.
It's a good one.
But yeah, it's like the house is alive and it don't, yeah.
At least that's what the Watcher is making it seem like, that there's something seriously odd about this house. Exactly 2 weeks had gone by with no word from the Watcher. That is, until Maria stopped by the house to look at more paint samples. She checked the mail and instantly felt horror grip her soul. She recognized the thick black lettering on a card-shaped envelope. Within the letter, both Maria and Derek had both been addressed directly. However, their names were misspelt. The Watcher boasted of having learned a lot about the family in the last 2 weeks, especially in regards to the children, even naming and addressing their nicknames all by birth order, the ones Maria had been yelling in the yard.
Yeah, that's creepy.
Yeah. The letter asked about one child in particular, whom the writer had seen using an easel, and she was painting inside an enclosed porch. So whoever had view to this house had pretty
good binoculars.
Yeah. So this is the contents of the letter. Quote, "I am pleased to know your names and the young bloods you have brought me. You certainly say their names often. 657 Boulevard is anxious for you to move in. It has been years and years since the young blood ruled the hallways of the house. Will the young blood play in the basement, or are they too afraid to go down there alone? I would be if I were them. It is very far away from the rest of the house. If you were upstairs, you would never hear them scream. Who has the bedrooms facing the street? I'll know as soon as you move in. It will help me to know who is in which bedroom. Then I can plan better. All of the windows and doors in 657 allow me to watch and track you. Who am I? I am the Watcher and have been in control of 657 for the better part of 2 decades now. The Woods family turned it over to you. It was their time to move on and kindly sold it when I asked them to. I pass by many times a day. 657 is my job, my life, my obsession. And now you are too, Bradis family. That's where they misspelled Bradis. Welcome to the product of your greed. Greed is what brought the past 3 families to 657 Boulevard, and now it has brought you to me. Have a happy moving day. You know I will be watching. End quote.
You said greed brought the other 3?
That's what the Watcher claims.
Oh, that's interesting.
I mean, it's a $1.3 million home. So
It's starting to sound like the house is talking in the first person. Like the house.
it's the Watcher speaking in regards to the house being like an entity or something like that.
Yeah.
So obviously, whoever's writing these also knows a little bit about the layout of the home, because he's talking about the basement and he knows how far the basement is from the upstairs rooms, and you know what kind of sounds could be heard. So he definitely has some, or he or she definitely has some sort of knowledge on this home. So understandably, the Broduses would not bring their children back to their new home again. Several weeks later, a 3rd letter arrived. This is what the letter said, quote, "Where have you gone to? 657 Boulevard is missing you." End quote. With hardly anything the police could do, Derek began his own investigation. He staked outside of his own home. He set up cameras and hid behind bushes in hopes of catching the Watcher. Now, would you do something like this?
Yeah, in a heartbeat.
You know, I mean, this would be like first thing you do, right? I mean, no one wants to stake out your house. I'm gonna stay out there all day long. I'm gonna clock every single person who walks by. I'm gonna take note of every car that drives by. This guy is spot on. This is exactly what I would do.
Yeah. Sometimes I daydream about doing that stuff. So no
Just
doubt.
for fun.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So he would actually hire several experts to help with the case. And one of the people that he hired, this is so cool, he hired former FBI agent who served as the inspiration for Clarice Starling in the Silence of the Lambs film.
Oh,
They went to school together. So that's pretty cool.
that is very cool.
Yeah. Additionally, they also hired Robert Lenahan, another former FBI agent, to conduct an assessment test on the letters. And these are his findings. The letters had a certain literary panache, which suggested a voracious reader. He noticed several old-fashioned ticks in the letters that pointed to an older writer. He found the lack of profanity to be particularly telling, given the level of anger in the letters, which could lend credence to a quote-unquote less macho writer. Lenahan didn't think the Watcher was likely to act on the threats, but the letters had enough typos and errors to imply a certain erraticism. The first letter was dated Tuesday, June 4th, but that day was actually a Wednesday. Additionally, ex-Westfield detective Chambliss looked into the case. He discovered something even more surprising. Investigators had eventually conducted a DNA analysis on one of the envelopes and determined that the DNA had actually belonged to a woman. So that actually lent a lot of credence to the quote-unquote less macho kind of feel that this agent was getting from the letters.
They got all that from a letter?
Well, they had a few letters now at this point.
Well, yeah, that's true, but
So they were able to kind of build some sort of profile of this writer.
that's insane. That's insane that they can sit there. I mean, I know you got to be gifted and into that, but like, no, you give me that letter. There's no way. There's no way I'd come to any conclusion like that. I'd just be like, you got to move, man. I don't know who it is.
The case would go cold for 2 solid years. The Broduses would have a really hard time renting out their home, but would finally get it rented out to an elderly couple. And one day, while the elderly couple was living in the home, they had experienced some squirrels in the attic, so they called Derek over to try to help get rid of those. And upon arriving, he was handed another card-shaped envelope from one of his new tenants. This is what the letter said, quote, "Violent winds and bitter cold, to the vile and spiteful Derek and his wench of a wife, Maria. You wonder who the Watcher is? Turn around, idiots. Maybe you even spoke to me. one of the so-called neighbors who has no idea who the watcher could be. Or maybe you do know and are too scared to tell anyone. Good move. I walked by the news trucks when they took over my neighborhood and mocked me. I watched as you watched from the dark house in an attempt to find me. Telescopes and binoculars are wonderful inventions. 657 Boulevard survived your attempted assault and stood strong with its army of supporters barricading its gates. My soldiers of the boulevard followed my orders to a T. They carried out their mission and saved the soul of 657 Boulevard with my orders. All hail the Watcher. So this is actually in reference to the Brodus family attempted to sell their home into 2 plots of land. So their land was actually almost big enough to have 2 plots sitting on it. And the idea was that, okay, we'll sell our plot of land, we'll destroy the house, and we can build 2 new houses on here, and we'll sell it and we'll get out from under it. Well, the community said, no, we're not going to do that. They were like 3 feet too short of up to code. So the community said, no, we're not going to do that. So the Watcher is actually claiming that it was his group of people that stood strong and we determined not to have this house be demolished. The letter indicated revenge could come in many forms. Quote, maybe a car accident, maybe a fire. Maybe something as simple as a mild illness that never seems to go away, but makes you feel sick day after day after day after day after day. Maybe the mysterious death of a pet. Loved ones suddenly die. Planes and cars and bicycles crash. Bones break. End quote. So obviously the letters like amp up. You're calling them idiots.
That's what I was about to say. He or she, it's like they hit a nerve on this one because they were coming in hard on that one, I thought.
Yeah, they got her a wench. I mean...
A wench, that was the one, yes.
Man, that old school language, it's like...
Have you ever called somebody a wench? I don't think I've ever called anybody a wench.
I think I've called a wrench a wench when on accident before when my dad's yelling at me for a tool.
Well, I've never called anybody a wench, but I tell you, I'm bringing it back. I think I want that one to come back.
Yeah, I mean, it's like not that bad. You'll just confuse people, I think, more than anything.
Oh, definitely. It's going to make them think about themselves. Like if you called somebody a wench, it would catch them off guard and they would hesitate for a second. Like nobody's ready for that. No.
So let's get into some of the theories. The first theory posited was during the first week after the first letter, a car dropped off a young man at home late at night on the Brodus' street. The police pulled the person over, who turned out to be a woman, and questioned her regarding the young man who exited her car. She said that she didn't know anything about the letters and that was actually her boyfriend who exited the vehicle. One noteworthy item she had mentioned was the fact that her boyfriend had become obsessed with a game in which he was referred to as the Watcher. Even stranger, after the police had attempted to set up 2 different meetings with him, he never showed to either. Now, I don't put too much stock into this theory. The main reason being there is an extremely popular video game called The Witcher. Incidentally, is also on Netflix. It's probably more likely that she was either misquoted or she misquoted the name of the game. That's what I think. What do you think?
No, I can see that. But also, didn't you say there were some mistakes in some of the letters?
Yes, there were.
So if this lady's already making mistakes with what she think her boyfriend plays, then she's making mistakes in the letters. I think that's... I mean, I get where you're coming from, but the fact that she's making mistakes everywhere is, to me, kind of points it towards her a little bit. Just a little bit, I think.
So you think that maybe she wrote it or that maybe he wrote it because maybe there is a Watcher thing that he's affiliated with, and maybe she's the female DNA they found on the letter.
Yeah.
That's a possibility. He never showed up for, his meetings with the police. That's a little sketch. So maybe. Let's move on to our second theory. The second theory comes from one of the painters. The couple living behind 657 Boulevard kept a pair of lawn chairs strangely close to the Brodus' property line. He said, quote, "One day I was looking out the window and I saw this older guy sitting in one of the chairs. He wasn't facing his own house, he was facing the Brodus' house." End quote. However, this is as far as the investigation would go with those neighbors.
Yeah, that's not that suspicious to me, especially if it's some old dude and he's watching his neighbor's house that's being worked on. He's just intrigued, I think, by the actual work, the construction that's going on. You know, he's bored.
Yeah.
So that's not that weird to me.
But it is like, just like kind of like a ramblings of like an older person, it kind of seems like. And this person has like perfect view into their home the whole time. He's watching everything. I mean,
yeah,
kind of strange. But you're right. I mean, if there was more to that, I think it would be investigated maybe a little bit more. Our third and most likely theory is at one point, Derek was chatting with his neighbor, John Schmidt, who lived 2 doors down, when Schmidt told him about the Langfords, who lived between them. Peggy Langford was in her 90s, and several of her adult children, all in their 60s, lived with her. The family was a bit odd, Schmidt said, but harmless. He described one of the younger Langfords, Michael, who didn't work and had a beard like Ernest Hemingway, as, quote, kind of a Boo Radley character, end quote. I don't know if you know Boo Radley from To Kill a Mockingbird.
Okay, I was about to say, don't come at me, bro. I know
okay.
Boo Radley. Okay, we all read that book in middle school. Come on, man.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure Robert Duvall played him, right?
I don't know. Robert Redford.
No, Duvall.
So Michael was actually known to kind of like be creepy around the neighborhood. Like he was known for like looking in through people's windows and walking through their yards and stuff like that. But for the most part, people thought that he was kind of like helpful. Like he would bring in my newspaper, or he helped me look for my cat and, kind of things like that. So he wasn't really like much of a suspect to anybody else. But to Derek, he thought the case was solved. He thought it was Michael. The Langford house was right next to the easel on the porch, which the author had mentioned seeing a child painting on. The family had lived there since the 1960s, when the watcher's father, the letter said, had begun observing 657 Boulevard, and Richard Langford, the family patriarch, had died 12 years earlier, and the current watcher claimed to have been on the job for the better part of 2 decades. So Derek was like, this is clearly the guy. I mean, he's right next door. Everything adds up. So he thought that was a shoo-in. Well, when the Broadduses told Detective Lugo about the family, he said that he had already knew about Michael, and a week after the first letter arrived, he brought Michael down to the station and they had an interview. Michael denied knowing anything about the letters, but the Broadduses say that Lugo told them that, quote, the narrative, unquote, of what he said matched things mentioned in the letters. So that's kind of weird. Like, he denied it, but some of the stuff he was saying was kind of matching up with some of the letters. However, Lugo would say, quote, this isn't CSI Westfield. When the wife is dead, it's the husband, end quote. The Broadduses also claimed that Detective Lugo told them that after talking to Michael, the letters would end. So that was kind of weird. Like, why would you say like, oh, don't worry, the letters are going to come to an end? It almost seemed like, oh, maybe there was something a little bit more to that whole interview. Maybe he said something to the detective that made him feel like the letters would come to an end. However, the letters wouldn't end. So I tend to think that it's a little unlikely that the letters would continue and it's Michael, and Michael had just been talked to by the police. That seems kind of far-fetched to me.
Yeah, you would think he would want to lay low just for a little bit.
Exactly. That's what I would think. But what if the Langfords were involved? What if the 90-year-old mother of Michael was actually the culprit? What if her old-fashioned language was a reflection of her age? What if the quote-unquote less macho quality of the letters pointed towards the feeble woman she was? The DNA on the letter was determined to be female after all. Could she have Michael leave the letters in the mailbox when she was sure no one was watching? Maybe the police knew who it was, but knew the ramblings of a 90-year-old woman would be ultimately harmless.
I just figured the whole thing out.
Go.
It was her, man. I mean, think about it. She's 90 years old. She's been living in this neighborhood the whole time. This new family comes in, doing construction on the house. It's too much noise in the neighborhood. She's just trying to relax and watch her stories on the television. And now they got these 3 young bloods running around the yard, making all the noise. She can't stand none of them. So what she do? She gets her boy, who's in his 60s. She just tries to scare him out of the house. Nailed it.
Yeah, lines up, right? They talk to Michael, some things. Oh, don't worry, the letters will stop. Like, stop, tell your mom to stop.
Stop
Sending out these letters. And she's like, no, I'm not going to stop. All right. So I think that's the most likely theory, but I'm going to leave you with one more theory. So finally, our last theory is that maybe, just maybe, it was the Broadduses who conjured this elaborate scheme. The home was extremely expensive. It's possible Derek could have sent the letters to the woods ahead of time and continued the letters in hopes of being able to get out from under their new purchase. This could explain some of the knowledge the author had in describing the layout of the home and the personal knowledge of the children. I mean, like you said, how does someone go from a $300,000 home to a $1.3 million house? However, based on the actions of the Broadduses, this theory honestly just doesn't really make sense. It was an expensive move, and the delay made things even worse financially. They also claimed of the emotional stress they endured as being something they would, quote, never wish on anyone, end quote. Now, it would be a disservice for me to not mention this little detail, and this is going to sound really strange. So after the final letter was received, the Watcher was no longer the only person sending anonymous letters in Westfield. On Christmas Eve, several families received an envelope in their mailboxes. They'd been delivered by hand to the homes of people who had been the most vocal in criticizing the Broadduses online. People who were saying, no, it was the Broadduses who actually sent these letters and they're lying about everything and they just want like a crazy story for like a TV deal. That's what all of these theories were starting to come up about them. So all these people started to receive all of these letters. One of them, who lived a few blocks down on Boulevard, had written on Facebook saying, quote, I wish we could go back to the days of tar and feathers. I have just a couple in mind, end quote. Like
Dang, that's harsh.
Yeah, people did not like the Broadduses. They were like, no, it was the Broadduses. They were the crazy ones. We didn't have any crazy letters until they moved in. Another family who got the letter said that it was, quote, weirdly poetic, end quote, as the Watchers had been, and that it accused the families of speculating inaccurately about the Broadduses. It included several stories about recent acts of domestic terrorism in which signs of brewing mental illness had gone unnoticed. The type letters were signed, quote, Friends of the Broaddus Family, end quote. So these letters were trying to say, like, what about this neighbor over here? What about this neighbor over here? Look around at everyone else. Like, there's obviously more domestic violence going on at other people's homes, stranger things going on at other people's homes besides just the Broadduses. So when Derek Broaddus was asked whether he had written them, he paused for a moment, and then he admitted that he had, in fact, written those letters. He wasn't proud of it, and he hadn't even told his wife. He said that they were the only anonymous letters that he had written. But he had felt driven to his wit's end, fed up with watching silently as people threw accusations at his family based on practically nothing. Derek would finally go on to reveal the final words of the final letter that he received. Quote, you are despised by the house, and the Watcher won. End quote. It's kind of interesting that the Watcher had this obsession with this house, and then he almost passed it on to Derek, and Derek became obsessed with the Watcher. So that is the crazy unsolved case of the Watcher. Not a lot of crime happened in this one, not as much murder as, some of our other conspiracies have been, but this was a true psychological mind game that this guy had enacted on this family.
This one, the thing that would drive you crazy about this one is it's making you always look over your shoulder.
Exactly.
And that's a slow burn, and that would drive you crazy. I wouldn't want to live like that. That would, ugh.
Yeah, involving your children into the mix. I mean, at the end of the year, there's going to be a Netflix show come out about this case, and so who knows what kind of spin they'll put on it, who they might pin to be, the actual Watcher. It'll be interesting to see if any of these theories that we talked about here made it to the show. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, that's going to be cool to see. Definitely.
Well, guys, that is our episode for you this week. Don't forget to check out more of our conspiracies on our channel. We have so many still to come that we can't wait to show you guys. We still have Staircase Stories coming out. And that's coming out real soon. And Kate, you're actually going to be a part of that again. You're going to be doing some more voice work for us. So we super appreciate that. Anything you want to say before I let us go?
Peggy. It was Peggy, man. I'm telling you. Peggy Langford, the old lady, she just didn't want them around. That's my verdict. It makes sense.
Well, let's hope that this year, when we see the case of the Watcher, we'll peg Peggy. Wow.
Yeah, we pegged her.
Peggy.
We're pegging her. Whoa,
We'll peg Peggy as
what?
the
I don't know.
as the Watcher. Well, we won't peg Peggy, but we're gonna peg Peggy as the. We're just gonna stop saying peg all the way around. We're just gonna say that's peg.
I'm calling it the last shot of the series. It's a wide shot, panning out, and Peggy standing in her window, smoking a cigarette, with her big old binoculars, watching everything. I'm telling you, Peggy did it.
And where's Boo Radley?
And Robert Duvall is there somewhere.
Robert Duvall. Well, thank you so much, Kate, for joining me on the staircase, and we will see you guys next time. Peace.
Deuces.
This episode may not be suitable for all. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Staircase Conspiracies. I'm Nathan.
I'm Nicholas.
And today we have a new conspiracy for you guys. One that's hopefully a little bit more lighthearted and not so heavy as our last two topics kind of have been.
Yeah, definitely, man. We came really hard with those two first ones, man.
JonBenet being the first, and that was an intense story all in and of itself. And then you took us down the Red Room journey, so that was very intense as well.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
So today's theory is going to be a little bit more lighthearted, and it's called the Antarctica theory. Ever heard of it?
Nah, I have no idea, bro. Nope. No idea what this is. So I'm looking forward to hear this one myself.
So basically, the theory is essentially something's out in Antarctica that we don't know. And there's some evidence that kind of suggests that it could be one of two different things. And we'll kind of explore that more. Antarctica, the coldest place on Earth. Temperatures on this continent can drop below negative 133 degrees. Do you know what would happen if you were exposed to this kind of weather?
Probably my insides would freeze.
Yeah, that's a pretty good answer. Without any protective gear, it's estimated that the amount of time you could survive is about 10 seconds.
Whoa, 10 seconds. And what's the temperature again?
Well, in certain areas of Antarctica, it can drop below negative 133 degrees. Now, of course, we know freezing is 30 degrees.
Yeah, wow, dude. That's like on another level.
With protective gear, you're estimated to withstand the cold for about 30 minutes.
Dang, that's with all the right gear.
Yep.
Whew.
So for comparison, Mars's temperature is negative 81 degrees.
Mars, okay.
So that means that Antarctica is colder than Mars. Not just colder than Mars, but like almost doubly colder than Mars.
Wow, that's crazy. I didn't even know Mars, what the temperature was on Mars.
Life on this frozen continent is scarce. Only seabirds and sea mammals occupy this icy terrain. But what if I told you more lived here than we originally thought? What if I told you this is now the home of the Nazis?
Boy, that took a left turn. I thought you were going to say some sort of, tribe or something, but wow, that's pretty incredible. Wow.
All right, hear me out. During World War II, Hitler held a fascination for Antarctica, claiming this to be the home of the Aryan race. This race, he claimed, was one of extraterrestrial origin, so an alien race. He believed they held great power and technology that would hold the key to his victory during the World War.
Wow.
Now, this is an interesting fact to point out. Germans are known for loving margarine. And since whale poachers were impeding on the blubber trade, a crucial ingredient to the production of margarine, and whales are often found in the Arctic, Hitler decided to do his own whale hunting, essentially cutting out the middleman. So he had a fascination for Antarctica because of this Aryan race, but maybe it was more about the margarine.
What? You had a fascination for butter? What?
So weird, but it's very true, okay? All right, so this is what he does. He sends a small army to Antarctica. They're there to research the area and claim a portion of the land as their own, thinking Antarctica would be a perfect escape plan should he lose the war. So just 30 days into their expedition, the Germans found the futuristic tech that Hitler was so desperately searching for.
Wow, futuristic tech in Antarctica?
Yeah. So they returned with the alien technology. Hitler would use these findings to develop many different types of designs to enhance his military. The flying saucer, to name one.
What?
But of course, Hitler would lose the war, forcing remaining members of the Nazi order to retreat from their homeland of Germany in submarines to a location many theorized to be Antarctica. And the new weapons forged would escape with them. Now, of course, this is the theory, that they found this Aryan city, that they found this technology, and that's how they were so advanced in all of their technology during World War II. So that's the theory. But here's where the theory kind of starts turning into history.
All right.
Just after they escaped in these submarines, this would lead America to launch their own expedition into the freezing tundras. So why is America now launching into this negative 133 degree temperatures? Why are we going out here? The only reason why they could be going out there is to track down something. So in 1946, just 1 year after the war ended, the naval Operation High Jump was launched, sending over 4,700 men dedicated to secretly launching high atmosphere nuclear weapons, essentially bombing different parts of Antarctica.
Okay.
But was the US Navy really here to test bombs? Or were they here to officially end all Nazi deserters?
Yeah, looking for something.
While on this mission, the Americans would be attacked. This is fact. This is history. This is not a theory. While they were out in Antarctica, the Americans were attacked. It's theorized that the brigade was attacked by an unknown aircraft. In a leaked Soviet report, the US soldiers claimed that they were able to shoot down one of the aircrafts into the icy waters below, leading many to claim certain photos of a downed ship in Antarctica as proof of this battle.
All right. Yeah, so they shot down an aircraft?
Yeah, so they're getting attacked by something out here, and this leaked Soviet report suggests that they were attacked by an unknown object, and they were actually able to shoot one of them down, that they crashed. However, wouldn't be enough. The advanced technology of these crafts proved overwhelming for the fleet, forcing the US Navy to retreat.
Wow. So they they got messed up, and then they were probably underestimating them.
Yeah, I mean, we just won the war.
Yeah.
We just won. And now we're getting scared back home by whatever is out in Antarctica. Super strange. So here's where it gets really weird. After they made it home, Admiral Byrd, a leader of the expedition, would report on national television that, quote, the U.S. should adopt measures of protection against the possibility of an invasion of the country by hostile planes coming from the polar regions. So the polar regions being like Antarctica.
Right.
So this is a claim laughable due to the fact that there's no life on the continent at all, besides from just a couple of birds and mammals out there.
Right.
That's it.
So they laughed this dude off.
They just laughed this dude off. Well, gets a little worse than that. Byrd was so convinced that what he saw posed a serious threat to America, even claiming that these ships move faster and in directions unlike anything he had ever seen. Now here's where the photos come into play. Photos and videos of the incident were recovered. However, the video holding the proof would allegedly go missing.
Oh, of course it did.
Of course it did. They always go missing.
Oh my God.
And now why? Consequently, after his shocking and controversial claims, Admiral Byrd would be admitted into an insane asylum and never heard from again.
Oh my God.
Now, was Byrd's claim of unknown aircrafts the remnants of a fallen Nazi order operating on alien technology?
So, like, how does anybody, like, situations like this amaze me, because it's like, people just go with the narrative. Like, okay, so this footage didn't come back magically. So this admiral, says, hey, this is going on. There's footage. Oh, wait, you lost it. Now they're just going to say he's crazy. Like, how does anybody not question that? That's what amazes me with some of these theories.
Well, it's because his claims were so outlandish that it would be easier to get rid of the tapes and just throw this guy kind of away.
Yeah.
Kind of shut him up. But why even shut him up in the first place if it's something like against us?
Yeah, man.
I don't know. Super confusing. Was Byrd's claims of unknown aircrafts the remnants of a fallen Nazi order operating on alien technology? Had they succeeded in their escape and made a new home here in the frozen Arctic? Well, in 2016, an archaeologist's excavation into Antarctica, made possible by an unusually warm season, yielded astounding results. On a remote island called Alexandria Land, a secret Nazi base was found, and in it, a slew of items.
Wow.
Amongst the findings included German mines, cartridge boxes, uniforms, and coats bearing the label of the German army, leaving us with irrefutable proof that Nazis, at least one point in time, in fact, occupied Antarctica.
Wow, and all that stuff was just left there, huh? That's crazy.
Yeah, just left, and no bodies. There was no bodies left there. One interesting bit of information to point out: understanding weather patterns would prove to be detrimental to any military program. This would be especially useful for the most accurate precision during bombing runs. So it's theorized that this base could have just been a research base for the Germans, organized for studying weather. Meaning maybe the Nazis in this case never had any nefarious or sinister plans, as we may have assumed. Maybe they were just here for weather.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense, I guess. Could be.
But still, a few things just don't sit right with me. What really happened during Operation High Jump? Who or what attacked our naval fleet, overwhelming 4,700 men and forcing our naval military to retreat?
Yeah, if they were just there studying, that wouldn't, I see what you're saying, yeah.
Additionally, what happened to Admiral Byrd? Was he killed by the government? Was he revealing something to the public, something they couldn't allow?
So this guy, they just said, people were asking, hey, what happened to this? Said, oh, he's crazy. He went in this asylum, and that's it. They just never...
Nobody ever heard from Admiral Byrd
him again.
I mean, this is an admiral.
Yeah, dude, that's insane. It's not some low-level guy.
Now, is it possible that he was going crazy? Is that a possibility? I mean, you have a whole naval fleet coming back home, claiming to be under attack. There was like 8 men who died.
So what was the official story why they died?
The official story is that they were attacked by an unknown aircraft.
Okay, and the admiral was saying
that this aircraft flies in directions that I can't explain, moves at speeds I can't explain, overwhelmed us. We were only able to take down one of their ships.
Right, so they're basically saying the same thing, but one is saying that it was specifically some crazy stuff going on.
The historical claim is that they were attacked. The theory is that they were attacked by... I mean, it could just be... This sounds kind of crazy, but it could be just like a UFO. It could be just like something that has nothing to do with the Nazis, but this theory suggests that Nazis found UFO technology and is now using it and used it to survive here in Antarctica and used it to defend off their base whenever the naval was coming there after only a year. I mean, they had a year to develop their defenses and things like that.
Gotcha.
What about the technology he claimed to have seen? Is it still there, buried just under the white sheets of snow? Perhaps our military is now in possession of these incredible weapons. Did this lead to the creation of Area 51 just a mere decade later in 1955?
So this guy that went back in 2016, he took no pictures or anything?
No, there's pictures. Yeah, you can find it.
Then he just left it there, all the stuff?
No, they recovered all of the findings that they found there, but there was no alien technology there. There was no secret weapons deal there. It was just kind of like a weather research station. But it's just strange that after all this information would come out, it would be like, well, yeah, there is a base actually, in fact, out there. And it's the Nazis. They were out there in Antarctica. Yeah. That's crazy.
That is crazy, bro.
So the questions just continue. So there you have it, the Antarctica conspiracy. What do you guys think? Are aliens really coexisting with Nazis in Antarctica?
Dude, that's crazy. I'm thinking maybe the government came and basically took all the alien stuff, alien technology, and basically planted all that weather stuff. So, obviously thinking that one of the people would be there and be like, oh yeah, so that archaeologist guy is saying that there was no UFO or anything, so he believes that because he went there and saw that.
It's just simply that they were researching stuff in Antarctica, came across this island, found all this stuff, and kind of turned it over to the government. Just said, "Hey, look what I found."
Okay.
But it's just there is a long trail of evidence to suggest that we were out there, they were out there. What else is out there? Why were they dropping bombs out there if there was no Nazis out there? Because the historical fact is that the Nazis died, and that they were all on trial, and then that no one got away. They were all, no one got away. They lost. So there's no reason for America to be out in Antarctica unless we were hunting something down out there. Why are we dropping bombs out there?
Yeah, an empty tundra. Yeah, man, that's a good one, man.
Not to mention, you can't even go outside.
Yeah.
You're going to send 4,700 men out here. For what?
Yeah, man. Oh, for a weather base.
Our government does not send people out there for fun. They don't do this for fun. There's a mission. Something was out there. Something could still be out there. There's photos that I'm sure that you'll end up putting up right here, and you can even check them out on Instagram too. That show a ship that looks like it's been crashed, and there's like a long trail that trails behind it, almost like it had been shot down and had skidded to a halt right there. There's all kinds of odd photos in Antarctica, but because it's such a barren wasteland and so dangerous to traverse, that you can't even go verify what these pictures are. Yeah. That base that they found in 2016, that was actually discovered like 25 years previously to that, but because there was so much snow, they couldn't access it. So there were kind of waiting to go check that thing out for like over 2 decades.
Wow. Oh man. I know a lot of conspiracy theories, and this is a good one. I never heard of this one.
Well, I'm totally happy to be able to provide you with the new one. That was definitely fun. Do I believe it? Hey, who knows? There could be Nazi aliens out there.
I'll tell you right now, I believe it, man, because it's a lot of cover-ups in the government, man.
I mean, and Nazis were known to have like crazy technology.
And then, dude, my thing is the government's lied to us so many times. It's like their credibility's out the window. So anything they say, I'm gonna take it with a grain of salt. So
yeah, well, I mean, you posed a whole new theory that this base that they found, maybe this was like some kind of cover up. Even there, we can't let Americans know that that we were ran off by the Nazis after we just won.
Yeah, dude. I mean,
that would look real bad.
Yeah, that's something. I mean, I thought of immediately. Like, okay, so maybe they figured somebody eventually is going to go out there and make the voyage to discover that stuff. So let's plant all this non-lethal stuff and then try to cover that up. I mean, who knows? Who knows, man? And that's the sad part. It's like I wish we could just be like, yeah, I'm going to believe what the official narrative is. It's like, why do we? I don't know. I'm getting in a big rant here, but you know what I'm saying?
Well, it's easier to just say there's no aliens, there's no Nazis anymore. We beat them. It's over with. Our government's good.
Yeah.
It's more of a better theory to say that who knows what happened out there. I mean, gosh, I just can't get over the fact that our naval fleet got like overwhelmed by something and you can't say what.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
And that was the Antarctica theory. What conspiracy do you have next week?
So next week, I have something that is an internet meme legend, but there's more to the story behind it. But, there's more to the story behind it than just a funny meme, and it is the gay frogs theory.
Gay frogs.
Yeah, dude. And let me tell you, it sounds funny. And, you probably seen the meme of Alex Jones talking about it. He talked about it back in 2016. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff that goes into that than just a funny meme that you see on the surface. So
yeah, I have heard something about gay frogs, but it was like just something that like I just thought it was just like a funny thing to say, not anything that was like a serious thing to look into.
Yeah, man. Just that. Just wait, wait for that, man. There's a lot of scientific stuff behind that. So
Well, I'm super excited to listen to that. If you guys haven't got caught up on any of our other conspiracies that we've done, we've covered the JonBenet case, we've covered the deep web red rooms conspiracy that was last week. So definitely go give those a check out.
and then also check out Staircase Stories if you like more of a scripted sort of story time. Scary stories. You can check that out. Staircase Stories. There is 4 episodes in, and we're coming with the 5th one. So there's a lot of content to catch up on.
So thank you guys so much again for coming down with us. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.
All right, guys. Later.